Qwest Field in Seattle, where the NFL playoffs kick off today. Tama the Seahawk is here, looking for some fresh meat as the Seahawks make their appearance here at Qwest Field. This NFC wildcard matchup, the Washington Redskins and the Seattle Seahawks. Hello, everyone. If you can hear us, Tom Hammond and Chris Collinsworth at Qwest Field. And Chris, just hearing this crowd react really gets the emotions pumping. The best time of the football season has to be special for a player.
It really is, and it's so crazy out here right now. But if you've reached this point in the season, you're 1 of 12 with a chance to win the Super Bowl. And don't forget the last 2 Super Bowl champs came out of this wild card weekend.
Well, the Seahawks were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, losing to Pittsburgh. They've been in the playoffs 5 straight years now, but still somewhat a forgotten team.
You know, they are a little bit, and they're a little bit of a different football team. We're so used to seeing Mike Holmgren's teams and all the offense and the points that they can put up. But right now, this is a little bit of a defensive-oriented football team. They have 4 Pro Bowlers on the defensive side, and they're flying a little under the radar right now.
Well, you know, the Washington Redskins have been on that emotional roller coaster, reaching the bottom with the death of Sean Taylor and then losing their 4th consecutive game. But somehow, Chris, they managed to rally their emotions, come together in a near miraculous run to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and when they were coming back from Sean's funeral, something happened with this football team. They had lost 4 games in a row, and they seemed to be finished. But they really galvanized on the field, and Joe Gibbs had so much a part of that. And then all of a sudden, Todd Collins has to come in this game. This 36-year-old who thought he would never have a chance, never get this opportunity. And here he is in the playoffs with a chance to make a Super Bowl run.
And the Redskins, the hot team, they come into today's game having won 4 in a row. The Redskins and the Seahawks, and you can bet the 12th man will be very much in evidence at Qwest Field today.
Something about playoffs, and our fans are always intense, always fired up.
Everybody's intensity cranks up. That next play could be the play that makes you a legend.
The playoffs are where you either win or you go home. Everybody wants that prize at the end.
Welcome back to Seattle in Qwest Field. 41 degrees, a little chilly. The wind 15 miles an hour, but gusting to more than that. The forecast is for rain. Right now the sun is out and the rain has been coming in and out. That's Jamie Moyer, the former Seattle Mariners pitcher, their all-time winningest pitcher, and now plays for the Phillies, but still a Seattle resident, raising the 12th man flag. One of the loudest stadiums, maybe the loudest in the NFL, and the 12th man tradition very much in evidence here in Seattle. The Redskins have won the toss and have elected to receive. And a couple of great coaches, Mike Holmgren and Joe Gibbs, matched up today in Seattle. 2 of the best all time in the NFL. Josh Brown ready to kick off. Jamie Moyer still leading the cheers. And from the 5-yard line, Rock Cartwright with a little seam gets to the 30-yard line before he's knocked down on the special teams, with Will Herring doing the honors for Seattle. So the Redskins, led by Todd Collins, here are their starting offensive players.
Todd Collins, Michigan. Clint Portis, the U. Mike Sellers, Northwestern. Santana Moss, the U. I'm Antoine, Randall, Indiana University. Chris Cooley, Utah State University. Chris Samuels, Alabama.
Pete Kendall, Boston College.
Casey Robach, Wisconsin.
Jason Fabini, University of Cincinnati.
Stefan Heyer, University of Maryland, College Park.
And Heyer will be one to watch today, the rookie. Hand off to Portis, Clinton Portis. Couple of tough yards as we check the starting defensive lineup for the Seahawks.
Patrick Kearney, University of Virginia.
Brandon Mebane, California, Berkeley.
Rocky Menard, Texas A&M.
Darrell Tapp, Virginia Tech.
Leroy Hill, Clemson.
Loaf Tupu, USC.
Julian Peterson, Michigan State.
Marcus Trufant, Washington State. Deion Grant, University of Tennessee.
Brian Russell, San Diego State.
Kelly Jennings, the U.
And Clinton Portis gets the second straight carry. And Rocky Bernard catches him for no gain on the play.
Well, Clinton Portis has just been such a huge part of this offense for the Washington Redskins. He hasn't put up quite the same kind of numbers in the postseason, just 54 yards per game. But when you break down what he's been able to do when he's gotten healthy this season, a huge difference maker for the Redskins.
3rd and 7, and Collins in the shotgun. Collins' first pass attempt of the day is over the head of Santana Moss. Collins way overshooting his man that time on 3rd and long, and it'll be 3 and out for the Skins on their first possession.
Well, one thing that the Seahawks did not want was for Todd Collins to get settled early in this game, and that time Lofa Tatupu, coming on a blitz, was able to get his hands up and force Todd Collins to throw it over his head. But boy, they were doing a lot to try and protect the right tackle, Stephon Heyer. They had 2 guys essentially over there on most snaps in that first sequence. Have to wonder how much of a factor he's going to be.
So Derek Frost will punt. Nate Burleson deep 4. The Seahawks record-setting season and returns for Burleson. Only able to pick his way forward for a short gain there across the 20. The punt covered 49, 5 yards on the return before Rock Cartwright makes the special teams tackle. So here's the Seattle starting offense.
Matt Hasselbeck, Boston College.
Sean Alexander, Alabama.
Leonard Weaver, Carson Newman College.
Nate Burleson, University of Nevada.
Bobby Ingram, Penn State. Marcus Pollard, Bradley.
Walter Jones, Florida State.
Rob Sims, Ohio State University.
Chris Spencer, Ole Miss.
Chris Gray, Auburn.
Sean Locklear, NC State.
And Burleson on the receiving end of the first pass from Hasselbeck, and it's good for a Seattle first down, a gain of 11.
Well, there's certainly some questions coming into this game about Matt Hasselbeck's wrist. He hurt it in the game last week, and he came into our meeting the other day, that big ice pack on there, and you're like, oh my gosh, what'd you do? Did you break your arm or what? But he said he just pinned his wrist underneath. It was giving him some problems. He was messing around with it in pregame, but he completed the first one, so that's a good sign.
Back to pass again. Stands in the pocket and delivers on the money to Bobby Ingram. Ingram at 34 years old having a career year.
And Bobby Ingram is the guy that is constantly working in the slot, and there are certain passes that Matt Hasselbeck says, I can throw to Bobby Ingram in with my eyes closed. He just simply knows where he is. He's a veteran guy, probably doesn't run much faster than 4.7 at this point in his career, but having a career year, his first time over 1,000 yards.
And a Seattle record 94 receptions. Seahawks moving on their first possession of the game and now in Redskin territory. From the Skin 47, Hasselbeck rearranging. He has to call a timeout as the play clock was ticking down. So Matt Hasselbeck trying to change the play, runs out of time, and the Seahawks spend a timeout, but they're driving on their first possession. NBC's NFL Wildcard Playoff brought to you by Southwest Airlines. With convenient nonstop flights, it's like having your own company plane. By Toyota, moving forward. By Coors Light's cold activated bottle. When the mountains turn blue, your beer is cold. And by Sprint, the official telecommunications service sponsor of the NFL. This is the NFL at Sprint speed. Aerial shot of Qwest Field, where the Seahawks on their opening possession of the game have driven down to the 47-yard line of Washington. They've run 2 plays, 2 Hasselbeck completes for 30 yards. Sean Alexander on the draw play gets it to the just shy of the 40-yard line, and the much maligned Seahawk running game. Sean Alexander says he takes that personally.
You know, Tom, one of the things that they feel like Washington feels like Matt Hasselbeck does is he gets to the line of scrimmage and they have these check with me plays where it's either to the right or to the left, and he'll make the call at the line of scrimmage. They're going to shift late to try and confuse him, but right now Hasselbeck's catching him in the shift.
Evades the rush and unloads it, throws it away, Hasselbeck. And let's take a look at the starting defensive unit for the Redskins.
Phillip Daniels,
Donaldsonville, Georgia. Cornelius Griffin, Alabama.
Anthony Montgomery, Minnesota.
Andre Carter, California.
Marcus Washington, Auburn.
London Fletcher, John Carroll University.
Randall Godfrey, University of Georgia.
Sean Springs, The Ohio State University.
Ron Landry, LSU.
Reed Dowdy, Northern Colorado.
Fred Smoot, Mississippi State University.
Reed Dowdy, of course, taking the place of Sean Taylor. 3rd and 4 here for the Seahawks. 4 wide receivers set. Hasselbeck under center, now in the pocket. And the defender falls down, and Hasselbeck misses Ben Obomanu. Obomanu was wide open. The defender fell down.
This thing's just absolutely wide open for Matt Hasselbeck, and he knows it. It was Sean Springs on the outside who simply just slipped and fell. They do a lot of man coverage, and for Washington defensively, it's a big reason why they've been able to turn their season around. The play of their corner, the man-to-man on the outside, allows them to bring more pressure. On that one, almost cost them big.
So Plaquemire in punt formation on 4th down, trying to do a little pooch punt. Antoine Randall lets it bound, and it takes a good Seahawk bounce, and they'll down it deep into Washington territory. Perfectly executed by Plaquemire and the Seahawks special teams. They pin Washington deep in a scoreless first quarter with 11:20 left. Plaquemire loved it. Matt Hasselbeck in the center there, over on the sideline studying what happened on that first series. He missed a man, probably would have been a touchdown, but the good punt down at the 4-yard line of the Redskins puts Washington in a hole.
I think this crowd's getting into it with them backed up a little bit.
Pitch to Portis. Cuts up, got a yard.
You can almost tell now with this Washington offense that if they're not protecting the side where the rookie free agent Stephon Heyer is, in other words, no tight end, no additional back over there, they're going to do something the opposite way, because there's no way they're going to allow Patrick Kearney to work one-on-one against Stephon Heyer. Here's a guy that was undrafted, a free agent, basically thrown in at the end of the season. He's done a good job, but they're going to have to protect him here today.
Meanwhile, Kearney led the NFC with 14.5 sacks. Second down, Collins. Slant toss complete to Moss. Makes it to about the 11-yard line. Tackled by Babineau.
We're talking about all the things they're going to do with Heyer over here. Right now, they're bringing in a defensive tackle, Lorenzo Alexander, on the side to just give a little additional protection over there. They certainly want Todd Collins to have enough time to feel protected. They want him to get settled in this football game and do not want him to get hit early.
Liddell Betts into the backfield on 3rd down and 3. Collins, wait, tossed it. A catch to the 20-yard line. It was caught by Randall L. Low catch, but he made it for the Washington first down.
Well, Todd Collins felt the pressure coming wide and just stepped up and made the play. I don't think there's any question he made that catch.
No question at all. A nice catch by Antoine Randall.
And a huge play because it gets you off your own goal line, your first down. You get a little something going offense against this crowd.
Yeah, and then they start now from the 20-yard line with a first down after beginning the last series from the 4. And a reverse. Randall L. out of bounds after a short gain on the play. Randall L., of course, the former Indiana University quarterback, capable of throwing a pass from that play as he did in the Super Bowl.
Well, Julian Peterson's just going to come shooting through the line of scrimmage, and if he could have figured out where the ball was, he probably could have made a play. He got through there and just kind of blasted right through the ball.
But Kearney got Randall L. out of bounds after a gain of only 2. To Tupu, the leader of the Seattle defense, looking over into the backfield. Great at anticipating the play call. Collins swings complete. Santana Moss just a yard short of the first down. Tackled by Russell. It's a gain of 7.
Tremendous play call that time by Al Saunders, the offensive coordinator. The Seahawks came on a corner blitz, and all Todd Collins did is just raise it up and throw it right to the guy. That's the kind of efficiency they have in this offense. And because Todd Collins is a veteran, we're seeing them open up and expand this offense in a way they just simply didn't do with Jason Campbell.
Collins in his 13th year from Michigan. You know the story. Came in to replace the injured Jason Campbell and got his first start in 10 years. I formation here, 3rd and short. And nothing doing. Stopped right at the line of scrimmage. They gave it to Portis, and he was met at the pass by Tapp and by Deion Grant.
Well, Darryl Tapp is just going to make a play, busting right through there. Stood up the defensive lineman Lorenzo Alexander that we had been talking about earlier. And there it is. When you get in a 3rd and short, you just have to win those individual one-on-one battles. And that time Darryl Tapp came up huge. He's been playing well this year.
So Frost punting on 4th down, and Burleson says stay away from it. Takes a nice Redskin bounce. Dangerous. Could have bounced off a Seahawk, but out of bounds. And it looks like our first penalty of the game. There's a flag down. Walt Coleman is today's referee.
One of the officials with his hat off, so it means somebody was out of bounds, came back in, probably the first to touch.
Walt Coleman has his regular crew with him. These first games are with the regular crews before they go to the All-Star crew setup.
Once you go out of bounds, and it happens to the gunner all the time, you get forced out of bounds, you come back in, but you cannot be the first one to touch the ball.
Illegal touching. Number 29 of the kicking team went out of bounds and was first to touch the kick. 5-yard penalty. Repeat 4th down.
Lee Torrance.
The gunner has to know that once you step foot out of bounds, and really there was no reason.
He didn't mean to touch it. It just bounced off his leg.
Yeah, it kicked into him. He was trying to get away from it and just couldn't. But that was a kick that was very much in the Redskins' favor, the way it was bounding, and they got pretty good field position out of it. So sure, now you back it up and you end up giving Nate Burleson one more shot.
So it wipes out a 49-yard punt with no return. And Frost back out to try again. And Burleson led the NFL in punt return yards. Burleson will field this one at the 35-yard line. Gets to the corner. Into Redskin territory before he's forced out of bounds. Another nice return by Nate Burleson. It was an 18-yard return. Good field position for the Seahawks on their second possession. Back in Seattle, 7:06 left in a scoreless first quarter. And go to NBCSports.com and vote for the greatest team of all time in the playoffs. And the fantasy year is not over either. You can go to NFL.com and play the NFL.com Playoff Challenge. And on the last punt, the line judge, Mark Steinkirchner, was injured.
He took a real shot at the end of this one. Of course, the officials, you can see upper right-hand corner of your screen right there. Lance Laurie is just going to be blocked into him by the punter, Derek Frost, and just took a head-on blow. They were working on him during the entire commercial timeout over there. Certainly hope he's all right.
Washington lost about 30 yards after the penalty on the punt. Here's Hackett with a reception from Matt Hasselbeck. Gets about 8 yards before he's tackled by Fred Smoot.
And DJ Hackett, one of those guys that has been in and out of the lineup all season this year with an ankle injury. He's finally healthy, got a chance to play a little bit last week. You can see him grimacing a little bit. I'm sure it's probably the ankle once again that's giving him problems, but he is a big play threat for this football team. You talk to Hasselbeck, he's the guy he loves to throw deep to.
From the Redskin 37, 2nd down and 2. Hasselbeck changing the play. Sean Alexander is the running back. Just raise up and flip it to Burleson. Can't get away from the defense, though. That was Fred Smoot again, the first to hit him.
Well, we haven't seen any indication of a problem from Matt Hasselbeck, but we saw early on when he was out warming up, getting ready for this one, he was clearly futzing around with that wrist. Is that a medical term? Sort of futzing around with that?
Well, it is now.
he was, you know, just messing around with it a little bit. You could tell he was a little uncomfortable with it.
Not comfortable with it. Yeah, you saw him grimace a little bit. That was about an hour and a half before the game. And maybe he warmed up out of it, but he was grimacing then. Toss to Morris. Breaks a tackle, gets the first down. He's inside the Redskin 30-yard line. Maurice Morris for a gain of 6.
I don't think there's any question that there has been a bit of a changing of the guard in the backfield for the Seattle Seahawks. It is at least a 50-50 proposition now with Maurice Morris playing in place of Sean Alexander, especially because they've gone to so much more of the passing style of game. He's a tougher guy. He's a better blocker, better receiver coming out of the backfield. And as you saw there, he doesn't run it too badly either.
Hasselbeck to pass. Short completion to the fullback Weaver, and just makes it back to the line of scrimmage. Tackled there by Sean Springs. Apparently Tony Viteri was the injured official. Bob Newmeyer?
Well, I just talked to him, and he was in pain. He got rolled up on, Tom, on the sideline, and he's going in for either treatment or an x-ray. Wanted to stay on the field, but one of the Seahawk trainers said, hey, let's just get in and take a look at this and see what's happened to him. So hopefully he'll be back.
So Tony Viteri injured on that punt exchange, the official. On 2nd and 10, Sean Alexander. Alexander, he broke a couple of tackles, fumbles the football, and it's picked up by the Redskins. Fred Smoot. Smoot still on his feet, looking for a block. And finally will be slammed down at the 35-yard line by DJ Hackett. Marcus Washington knocked the ball loose from Alexander and picked up by Smoot. And he could have been down. In fact, that's what Alexander is arguing as they look at the big screen.
That was a big run for Sean Alexander. He hasn't lost a fumble all season, and I don't think he loses that one either.
Nope.
Good call by the officials, clearly down before the ball is stripped out. In one of those moments, don't forget Sean Alexander is playing for just the second game now without that cast on his wrist that he's been bothered with all season long. He felt like that it may lead to a fumble, and it's sort of ironic that here we are early in the game, and his first big carry, the ball pops out when he was holding it there in his left arm.
Yeah, but his knees clearly were down, don't you agree? And
no question.
Despite the broken wrist, did not lose a fumble during the regular season. So the Seahawks have challenged. We'll be back. Back in Seattle, where Mike Holmgren has challenged the ruling of a Sean Alexander fumble. Fred Smoot picked it up, rambled 20 yards with it. And Walt Coleman will have the ruling.
After reviewing the play, both of the runners' knees were down prior to the ball coming out. It'll be Seattle's ball, 1st and 10 at the 17-yard line. Seattle is not charged with a timeout.
So Seattle gets it back at the 17 of Washington.
Pretty easy one this time for Mike Holmgren. Yeah. He has now won 5 of 6 challenges on the year. So if he challenges it, he sees something, and so did Sean Alexander.
Yeah, Alexander saw it right away. Actually, so did the Washington defense, but during that timeout, the defense said, we better go back out.
Usually you see both offenses on the field at the same time, but that time the Redskins defense just stayed. They saw it.
So the Seahawk drive continues from the 17-yard line. Draw play. Weaver cuts to the outside, to the 5, and for the touchdown. Leonard Weaver's second touchdown run of the season. It covers 17 yards.
the Washington Redskins in a straight pass defense. Look at all the guys back off the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden you hand the ball in a draw to Leonard Weaver. That's probably been the biggest difference. Max Strong was hurt earlier in the season. His career now finished. And you bring in Leonard Weaver, who maybe isn't quite the blocker, but he's a better runner, he's a better receiver, and I think has added a real dimension to this offense.
Josh Brown will attempt the extra point. And it is good. Weaver scores the touchdown. And thanks to a successful challenge of what appeared to be a Sean Alexander fumble at first, the challenge gives the Seahawks the ball, and Weaver takes it in for the lead.
We got to find a balance. Since we sling the rock so much, our game plan's a little bit different than what it used to be.
It's not going to be good weather. You know, it could be rainy, windy, wet. I absolutely expect to run the ball more and run the ball well.
The Seahawks running game, which averaged only 101 yards a game in the regular season, has been better in recent weeks, and some key runs there, including the 17-yard touchdown run by Weaver. So Seattle gets the touchdown. They got almost a 30-yard gain on a Washington penalty on what would have been a good Redskins punt. And then the Seahawks challenge the fumble ruling, get the ball back and score. To the 32-yard line. Let's go back to Weaver's touchdown run.
Well, typically when you end up with just your fullback in the backfield and 4 wide receivers on the field, you're thinking, okay, they're definitely going to throw the ball. So the Washington Redskins defensively reacted to that. They dropped 2 safeties back. They dropped their middle linebacker, London Fletcher, about 10 yards off the ball. And with this whole new look and this new fullback, there's nothing wrong with handing it off inside. They took advantage.
Mike Holmgren said one of the reasons their rushing game's been better in recent weeks because the other team's trying to stop their passing game, and they went into a pass defense that time. Here's Collins on first down, and sitting down right in the middle of the defense wide open is Antoine Randall L, and he takes it to midfield for a first down, a 20-yard gain on first.
It's the power of having a Clinton Portis in your backfield. 8 men up in the box this time for Seattle. They go play action. They fake the reverse. Tutupu just a little too reactive to the run, and able to get in behind him was Antoine Randall L.
Todd Collins has been tearing up the league since getting his chance after a 10-year absence in the starting lineup. Pumps once, under the rush, he just flips it away, and it bounds out of bounds over the head of Cooley. Chris Cooley is tight end.
Patrick Kearney coming around the outside is getting a lot of good pressure coming up, working against the rookie on the outside, but it was Kelly Jennings working against Antoine Randall L. They had a double move on the outside. Jennings played it absolutely perfectly. Todd Collins had to pull the ball down, and that's what allowed Patrick Kearney to get there.
Second down and 10 from midfield. And Washington takes a timeout. I think they beat the flag with the timeout. No delay of game. We'll take a break. Tomorrow, Hulk Hogan and Layla Ali lead a new generation of warriors and American gladiators. Don't miss the 2-night premiere event tomorrow at 9/8 Central and Monday at 8/7 Central here on NBC.
I love the American Gladiators.
I thought you would love them somehow.
There's just something about that show.
If you were scouting for an American Gladiator on the field here today, who would you take?
Oh boy, there's a good. How about Lofa Tutupu?
Yeah, I'm going for big old Walter Jones. 6'5", 3¼ quick feet. First time the Redskins have found themselves on the short end since Collins has been the quarterback. Nowhere to go for Portis. Clinton Portis tackled for a loss on the play by Patrick Kearney.
Well, the pressure is really starting to come now, and they're really starting to attack Stephon Heyer. Kearney with a little flinch, and I thought Heyer moved right before that, but he is just splitting the double teams. They're trying to bring people over to help Heyer. That time it was Chris Cooley, but Kearney is just simply too quick, too strong for all of them. They're going to have to come up with another plan here.
Kearney, who came over as a free agent from Atlanta, a former UVA Cavalier. Collins on 3rd and long. Downfield, deflected. Intended for Santana Moss, and it falls incomplete.
Absolutely perfect throw that time by Todd Collins. You see him standing tall in the pocket. They ran a clear through the middle of the field, and then Santana Moss came around. I mean, it was just could not be thrown any better. Just give Seattle a little credit for the coverage right now. This is a speed defensive football team. We talked about it in the open. People aren't paying attention to this group out here, and I don't think that everybody realized just how good they are defensively.
The ball deflecting off Santana Moss's hands and incomplete. So Frost, short punt. Burleson says stay away from it and takes it on the bounce. I think he wanted everybody to stay away from it, but suddenly he found the ball in his arms. It's a return of 8 yards after the punt, only 32. Looked like the wind held it up that time, didn't it? Bob?
Well, Tom, I want to take you back to Matt Hasselbeck when he was an 8th grader, and he was looking for a place to play high school football. At the same time, of all people, Todd Collins was at nearby Walpole High, and the Hasselbeck family actually thought of moving to Walpole as Todd's heir apparent. But they decided to instead go to Xaverian Brothers High School, which is a small Catholic school in Westwood, Mass. Those schools are 9 miles apart. Believe it or not, here we are, about 15 years later. These players have never met each other or played against each other in a regular season or playoff game until today.
All right, Bob Hasselbeck. After the play action fake, finds DJ Hackett for a big gain on 1st down. Hackett working against Sean Springs for 15.
Yeah, it's just one-on-one on the outside, and really after Sean Springs fell down on the other one, DJ Hackett just coming back. Maybe a little subtle push on the tail end of that one. But Hackett is one of those big body guys. Kind of reminds you of a Joe Juravicius kind of guy. If you can get it somewhere close to him, usually he's going to come down with it.
43-yard line. 1st down. A minute and a half left in this opening quarter. NFC wildcard game. Seattle leading. Down the sideline, Hasselbeck overshooting Hackett that time. So the Boston connection between Hasselbeck and his opposite number, Todd Collins. Reported by Bob Newmeyer, a Bostonian. Hasselbeck did all but ask for Bob's autograph when he came in to meet with us.
He was a little excited to meet him. Yeah, he sure was, which is hard to believe in many ways when you break that down and start thinking about it. But Todd Collins, how much fun was it to talk with him? I mean, just a guy, he said, I'm 36 years old, and I just never believed this could possibly happen. I thought I got bypassed last year when they put in Jason Campbell, and here I am, and finally getting a shot this late in my career.
10 years and never bitter about not getting a chance. Maurice Morris stopped in the backfield. The defense good that time from Marcus Washington, who stops Morris for a loss of about 3 yards back to the 40-yard line.
And to some extent, I think it's an important time in the ball game now, really, for both teams, because we've seen this weather blow in and out of here all day. I mean, just downpours and huge wind gusts. And for right now, it's a little bit settled, but you just don't know what the second half might look like.
Third and long, and Hasselbeck backing up into the shotgun. Outlet receiver is Weaver. Bumped out of bounds short of the 1st down. Fred Smoot defending on the play for the Redskins. Are going to get the ball back.
And I have to give Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator, credit for that one. He came up in a total blitz look, and Matt Hasselbeck turned and checked off, thinking he had man coverage. As soon as he did it, the Redskins backed out, played a zone, said, here you go, take this one in the flat. Thank you very much. 4th down, punt the football.
Point, counterpoint, a chess match between the offense and defense. Randall L. is deep to receive the Plaquemire punt. Remember the last time Seattle punted, they were able to down it at the Redskin 4. Plaquemire sails this one a beauty, looking for the coffin corner. There is a flag down, and Plaquemire trying to shake it off. The ball will be marked out at the 2-yard line.
I think you're going to have a running into the kicker here on this one.
A beautiful 50-yard punt by Plaquemire. That coffin corner is a dying art, isn't it? You hardly see that anymore. Worked it perfectly.
I think it's Matt Sinclair right at the tail end is just going to catch the leg as it comes down. It's running into the kicker. It's a 5-yard penalty.
So Holmgren with a decision to make.
Running into the kicker. 58 on the defense. That penalty's declined. First down.
So would not have given him a first down, and they'll take they take the mark.
You know, it's kind of an interesting decision. They would have had 4th and a short yard if in fact they had taken it. It may be an opportunity to go for it there, but as we've seen in the past, they kind of like to let this 12th man go to work on people when they get backed up like this. And so Mike Holmgren, after chewing out Matt Hasselbeck, or it appeared he was on the sideline coming off the field on that last one, probably for checking off on that play we were talking about. Kind of an interesting dynamic between those two. What did Matt tell us? He says, you know, he's all charming around you guys. He said, we never see that side of him.
In fact, the two have sort of a cooling off understanding when he comes off the field. Doesn't always go that way. The net result, though, that the Redskins back at the 2-yard line this time to open their drive in the closing seconds of the first quarter.
Todd Collins, known for being very poised, very cool under pressure. You cannot make the big mistake down here. Even if you punt it, it's not a bad play from down here. Cannot turn it over now.
Flags.
Chris Samuels jumped.
Neutral zone infraction, 60. Defense, 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Well, there you have it on the outside as one of the Seahawks jumped, and that made Chris Samuels flinch. That's a good call by the officials. If the defensive player jumps first, then it is on the defensive side.
A rare penalty against Seattle gives the Redskins a little more space out to the 7. Collins backpedaling, fires incomplete. Intended for Cooley, the tight end, who is the leading receiver on the season for the Redskins.
Well, right now, Todd Collins is playing better than his receivers are. That's a second ball now we've seen where they've had a chance to make a play. And if Santana Moss and Chris Cooley aren't going to make catches, it's going to be a long day for Todd Collins.
And the Seahawks have held Clinton Portis to 2 yards on 5 carries. He's the tailback in the eye on second down. Portis blocked from Sellers. Out to the 12-yard line to bring the first quarter to a close. So the end of the first quarter with Seattle leading 7-0. NBC's NFL Wildcard Playoff continues in a moment. Back in Seattle, we mentioned the classic coaching matchup today. And point of fact, it's only the second time in NFL postseason history that the two coaches have over 150 wins. The other time, 1941, Curly Lambeau of Green Bay and George Halas, Papa Bear Halas of the Chicago Bears. Joe Gibbs with 154, Mike Holmgren 157, matched up today.
Joe Gibbs stopped me on the field just before the game and said, I want you to know what I'm about to do is a heck of a lot harder than what you're about to do.
Two Super Bowl winning coaches matched up today in the NFC wild card. Collins hit as he released. Patrick Kearney was all over him again, and the Seahawks have recovered.
Well, Patrick Kearney once again is just simply tearing up Stephon Hire on the outside. That's one of the few times we haven't seen him with any help over there, and you just simply can't do that. And one of the problems you have if you're the Washington Redskins is you can't constantly help everybody on the football field. By taking one person and using him to help in protection, you're taking somebody out of the pattern. And right now you're seeing Todd Collins pressured in a way that he hasn't been during the course of this 4-game win streak.
That's the challenge flag that Joe Gibbs has apparently thrown onto the field. Darryl Tapp quickly to the ball, by the way, recovered it after Kearney had knocked it free.
Well, Joe's going to challenge whether or not that's a pass or a fumble, and it was close. It was happening right at the time, and if that arm is coming forward at all, and it's definitely a close call. I mean, this is a good challenge by Joe. He understands down 7-0 at this point. If he goes down 14-0, he has a problem. Is that hand coming forward just slightly? It was close.
The previous play was an incomplete pass. It'll be second down.
Oh, the ruling now, an incomplete pass.
Well, now you're going to see a challenge probably on the other side of the field from Mike Holmgren.
In fact, the Seahawk offense was out there. The Redskin defense was out. And now they say incomplete pass. So here's Holmgren now getting the explanation from Walt Coleman. One thing, though, is obvious, that Hire has his hands full.
He does indeed.
What can they do? What can they do to help him?
They just have to keep guys coming over there time after time, and that one is right so close on the border as to whether or not that's pass fumble. And I think what they may be telling him at this point is this is an incomplete pass. We ruled this as an incomplete pass, and I'm not sure that Mike Holmgren can challenge that one.
He has that look that he'd like to.
Yeah, because once it's ruled incomplete, if it had been ruled the other way, it could have gone from a fumble to an incomplete pass. But once they say that that's an incomplete pass, the ball's dead.
Well, the Seahawks won a challenge that led to their touchdown. That one wasn't a challenge, but the Redskins get a bit of a break with Portis tackled for a loss by Julian Peterson.
Well, Julian Peterson has just had a tremendous year this year, going to the Pro Bowl as well. But this is a guy that they move all around. They'll put him down in pass rush situations. They'll drop him in pass coverage. He is so athletic and just so difficult to block for any of these guys in a one-on-one situation. When you look up and down this team, Julian Peterson, Lofa Tatupu, Darryl Tapp, Patrick Kearney, incredibly athletic in that front seven.
Peterson nearly undressed Portis on that one. It's third down and 13, deep in Redskin territory. Todd Collins across the middle and caught by Randall for a key first down play. Deion Grant tackled him, but not until he had covered 15 yards, enough for the first big play by Collins and Randall.
That time, two in the backfield, and they picked up the blitz by the Seattle Seahawks. You see everybody coming and perfect protection. Pete Kendall at the left guard position with a big block, able to pick up that blitz. And when Todd Collins can stand in there and just survey the field, that's what they worry about him. They said his best attribute is the fact that he is very good at diagnosing defenses, and they didn't want to give him a chance to do that.
So first down now from the Redskin 25. Pocket collapsing, but Collins got away and spotted somehow right in the middle of that defense. Randall again.
Oh. One of the things that happens when you constantly are trying to help on one side of the ball, the other guy is under siege. Chris Samuels all season long has basically been left one-on-one because they've had to try and help. They've lost so many tackles, so many guards over there. John Jansen, Randy Thomas, Todd Wade. And so Chris Samuels has sort of been the unsung hero of this football team because he's had to do so much one-on-one protection.
Portis pounding ahead up the middle for a first down. Peterson and Leroy Hill dragging him down.
Clinton Portis has a way of getting small sometimes in small holes, and this was a teeny tiny hole which he just kind of wiggled his way through. You know, how do you get in there? Then he ended up picking up 4 or 5 yards on the play.
Collins first down screen pass complete to Cooley, the tight end, and the Seahawks defended well.
Don't you have to wonder just a little bit what Todd Collins' mom's doing? Remember, he was telling us last night that he was like, even when I was in Little League pitching in a game, she could not watch. She would literally go out pacing. At one time, they found her in the backseat of the car lying down. She was so nervous. So I can't imagine where she is right now.
We don't know where she is. We do know she's not watching. Having a tremendous run here since taking over for Jason Campbell. Hit as he releases Collins. It'll come up short. Intended for Santana Moss, but he took a shot just as he released the football.
And it's a good thing they got to him, because Santana Moss was absolutely wide open down the field. Coming with the pressure up the middle, it gets there just in time, and Santana Moss, I don't know if Seattle had broken the coverage or exactly what happened. Deion Grant jumped Chris Cooley underneath. He is going to walk in the end zone if Todd Collins can get anything on that throw.
Howard Green, the man that hit Collins just as he released the football, and it came up short.
And it's kind of strange because Howard Green is just basically a run stuffer. He's not really known for his pass rushing ability at all.
Third down and 12 from the shotgun. Collins looked away. Did he get the timeout called? The ball bounced off him and recovered with the Seahawks. Here's another key ruling. He turned to look at Walt Coleman to call a timeout. He had put his foot down several times hoping for the snap, never got it. And the delay of game will prevent a turnover. Did you see Collins? He had said he was ready for the snap several times. He never got it. And then turned to call a timeout as the play clock expired. See, there's the, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. All right.
But he never turned to call timeout. In other words, you have to actually call for the timeout. But I think by that point, by the time he actually turned and the snap went off, he saw double zeros on the play clock.
Here's a screen pass to Portis. Clinton Portis, who's been used in the passing game more by Todd Collins, only gets a slim yard or so as Kearney and Robach have a little confrontation.
Play clock is at double zero right there, and Todd Collins saw it. And as he turned, now you have to be careful because there is a little lag time there between when it actually expires and when they're going to say the play's done.
Frost punt to Burleson. 4 possessions, 4 punts for the Redskins. Burleson shook away from 2 men and then is forced out of bounds by Frost, the punter. And Prelo. 7-zip Seahawks in the second. NBC's NFL Wildcard Playoff is brought to you by Chevy, an American Revolution. By Verizon Wireless. Get all the football action from NBC Sports right on your VCast phone. By Subway Restaurants. Subway, eat fresh. And by Budweiser. Reach for the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, the great American lager. Great aerial view of Qwest Field and next door Safeco Field, the Mariners Field. And look, what a nice welcome. Just one problem.
Yeah,
there's no H in Chris, right?
Scratch that off. That's all right. Hey, I'm honored, aren't you? That's nice. I appreciate they took the time.
One of the nicest welcomes we've gotten. Usually it's you again.
Yeah. It's a nice city, though, isn't it? It really is. Great people there.
First down for the Seahawks from their own 35-yard line. And here's Burleson open down the sideline. Kind of an odd throw from Hasselbeck. I don't know if his arm was hit or what, but he's able to muscle it out to Burleson for a gain of 25.
That means Sean Springs got busted. Burleson came on a little double move. He came off the slant. And Sean Springs has a real reputation in this league for reading quarterbacks' drops and reading releases of tight ends and backs. And sometimes he will get interceptions off that. He'll jump around even if the receiver doesn't make that kind of move. That time they were able to take advantage. They saw that on film. They set him up and got him.
Sean Alexander stacked up after a gain of 1. Well, the Seahawks very tough here at Qwest Field. 7-1 this season, and with Matt Hasselbeck at quarterback, 31-10, which ranks right up there with some pretty good company.
Yeah, I always say, you know, anytime they want to throw a graphic or those things up, I said, who are the other names on the list? And if you see Brady and Favre, okay, we can go with that one. That's a good one.
Tom Brady named MVP. And Favre got the only other dissenting vote.
Hasselbeck knows he has man coverage here. Let's see if he can take advantage.
Catching it in stride, DJ Hackett. And a nice fingertip catch. And the Seahawks continue to move the ball. That's just short of the first down.
Well, that time you had Marcus Washington all the way out here on Maurice Morris. And when you see a linebacker walking out there, you understand right in the pre-snap read that that's man-to-man coverage. So when you let Matt Hasselbeck know fastball, curveball before the snap of the ball, pretty easy pitch and catch at that point.
Springs again defending, brings up a 3rd down and 2. Hasselbeck out of the shotgun, calling Hackett in. And swings it wide of Maurice Morris. Well, Hasselbeck had Morris, probably was going to pick up the first down, but missed him.
Well, that's the second one we've seen today on 3rd down. He had a chance to convert. Remember, Sean Springs fell down earlier, and they come right back, and then Matt Hasselbeck has to walk off. Now, here's the situation. Here's what they've agreed to. They don't talk to each other right after a bad play. So Matt will come walking off and get a drink of water, and Mike Holmgren will talk to the coaches, and he'll try and settle him down, and if he still needs them, they'll come back and yell at each other.
Josh Brown, 50-yarder on its way, and good! Josh Brown gives the Seahawks a 10-point lead. Thursday, all of America remembered why they love The Apprentice. Big Egos mixing it up big time, and it's for charity. It's back. It's a hit. It's all new. The Celebrity Apprentice. Thursday at 9/8 Central on NBC. Beautiful shot of Qwest Field, and today's aerial coverage brought to you by Gillette Clinical Strength.
Kind of nice how they weave these two stadiums right in here downtown,
and what a boost for downtown too, to have them. Cartwright on the return of the Brown kickoff. Will Herring, a special teams tackle. A little skirmish, nothing serious. Well, Patrick Kearney has been very much in evidence today.
Yeah, and we knew it was going to be like that coming into the ball game, no matter what they do to try and protect against him. That time, Chris Cooley trying to chop him down. He just simply pushed him to the ground and made the play. He's been good against the run. He's been good against the pass. And really, when you start getting inside a quarterback's head, and that clock in your head has to start going a little faster than what you're used to, it can be an uncomfortable moment for a guy who hasn't played very much.
First down, Skins from the 31. Portis breaking free. Portis with a nice run on first down to the 45-yard line. Just short of the 45 at the 44 before he's tracked down and taken down a first down run.
Well, one of the things that the Washington Redskins have always been known for under Joe Gibbs is the ability to run the football. And when you're talking about this kind of crowd noise, we've seen them run it pretty well out here. I don't think they've run it quite enough, to tell you the truth, because then you slow down a Patrick Kearney. You just start pounding them. They've lost some defensive tackles in the middle. Maybe they can start attacking inside.
Again, it's Clinton Portis, and this time only 2 yards before he's tackled by Lofa Tatupu. Tatupu, we talked to him yesterday, and he's so adept at guessing the play or diagnosing the play to come. He sometimes said he even calls it out and watches for the reaction of the offensive lineman. Sometimes they say, hey, how do you know that? And he said even when he sits at home watching a game on television, he tries to predict what play it will be.
And he's pretty good at it, too. You can see him when you watch tape move towards the ball faster than any of these other guys. And these three linebackers are pretty good.
Collins sacked. Peterson. Loss of 6 on the Julian Peterson sack. He had 9.5 during the regular season.
Well, Julian Peterson is just a nightmare for anybody to try and pick up in blitz. I believe he's coming from right here. He's going to come inside, and as the offensive line fans out a little bit, and Clinton Portis thought he was picked up by Jason Fabini, he slipped off to the right and ended up nobody blocked him, and he is too quick. If nobody's going to get a hand on him.
Third down and 14. Collins broken up. Intended for Caldwell. And another punt upcoming for Washington.
Yeah, one of the problems the Redskins have is that they don't have a lot of speed on the wide receiver position outside of Santana Moss. So you could see Kelly Jennings, who has really become a really solid corner in this league. So much of the attention going to Marcus Trufant, who's going to the Pro Bowl this season. But Kelly Jennings, who's been attacked all year, is
out of bounds about the 19-yard line. A 53-yard punt, 12 yards on the return. And a flag on the play. Flag back at about the Seahawk 30-yard line.
There's no foul on the play for unnecessary roughness. First down.
So, first down Seahawks. They lead the Redskins by 10. Seattle leading Washington 10-0. The Seattle defense you talked about, how good it was at the opening of the telecast. Boy, their pass rush has really been potent today. And they held Washington to another punt and take over with a 10-0 lead. First down pass from Hasselbeck. Down the sideline for Hackett, and a flag down. That'll be interference against Sean Springs.
It may be the other way.
Maybe against Hackett, and that's what the Redskins are saying, that's for sure.
Yeah, Springs had pretty good position on this one, and Hackett trying to hack his way back
Pass
in.
Interference, 18. Offense.
It is offensive interference.
First down.
Just a tail end of the play, and Sean Springs, really perfect coverage, a little hesitate and go move. He's standing there, gets his head around, and then it was Hackett with a bit of a stranglehold. And Hasselbeck is going to hit his own player. That's Sean Alexander.
Remember, that's the hand that he hurt.
And that's a tough one. I tell you, when you're talking about a thumb hand sort of thing, that it would be a bigger injury than the wrist.
So back to the 10-yard line. They hand off to Sean Alexander. And he's taken down short of the 15-yard line. So the penalty puts the Seahawks deep. And now sets up a 2nd and 15. I don't know about Hasselbeck's hand.
You know, in Washington now defensively, they need to take advantage of this situation. They caught a break earlier with the Patrick Kearney play, a play that was certainly close, but to me probably looked more like a fumble. It ended up being an incomplete pass, and they get another chance. They're kind of lucky to be in this game. Now they get the penalty here. They can make a stop, get the ball back, get on the board. They need something to get them jump started.
Just under 6 minutes to go till halftime. Hasselbeck setting up what appeared to be a screen to Weaver. It's incomplete. And of course the Seattle pass rush though has been in the face of Todd Collins all day, and as you said, almost resulted in a big play which could have given the Seahawks nearly a touchdown on the turnover.
Yeah, it was such a close call, and it just really benefited the Washington Redskins in that case. And for Todd Collins, it's been a much tougher day than what he's seen so far, not only on the front end with what they're doing with the pressure, but on the back end as well, because right now in the secondary, Seattle's playing terrific ball there as well.
Here's a big chance now for the Redskins, though, if they can hold Seattle here deep in their own territory. 3rd down and 15. Hasselbeck sacked back at the 10-yard line. Ball free and a scramble for the football. Trying to sort it out. Remember, Hasselbeck's hand, his passing hand, he hit it on a helmet, was already injured coming into the game. Maybe that grip of the football not quite as good, but the Seahawks avert disaster with the fumble recovery there.
And Hasselbeck really lucky on that one. He held the ball way too long. They had terrific protection, clearly a coverage sack, and you just can't say anything about the protection because it was terrific. It was Chris Wilson, who had a couple of sacks in the game last week, who literally went all the way around. He was completely blocked on the play. It was a nice job on the outside by Sean Locklear blocking him. There's just no way he could have anticipated the fact that Hasselbeck was holding the ball for 6-7 seconds. But here's the break now for the Washington Redskins. You know, they get an opportunity. They got the penalty. Now they have to do something. They're going to have great field position after this.
Meyer will punt from his own end zone. Antoine Randall calls for a fair catch and makes it at about the 43-yard line. Only a 32-yard punt.
Check. Saturday night in C. Saturday night in C.
Saturday night? I thought it was Sunday night.
It's the playoffs, man. The playoffs.
For the playoffs, Faith Hill had to go to an audible there. And coming up next, the second half of our wild card doubleheader, the AFC matchup between the Steelers and the Jaguars, coming up next here on NBC. For the first time today, the Redskins have the ball in Seahawk territory, their best field position to start a drive yet. Play action fake, Todd Collins through the hands of his receiver. That's what, the 3rd drop today?
Yeah, and it's all 3 stars that are dropping.
Yeah, Portis dropped that one.
You know, they're only sending 2 guys out in the route because they're having so many issues with the pass protection right now. But that time they did manage to slip Clinton Portis through there. But you have to make that play. There's such a difference between 2nd and 5 and 2nd and 10. You know, now you're sort of in one of those positions where you know Seattle's going to bring the pressure, and who are they going to bring? I mean, they've been hitting you with everybody on the defensive line. You can't block just one of them.
Collins going deep. Almost intercepted, throwing into double coverage of Santana Moss. And Trufant and Grant running with him.
If I had to say what was the most improved part of the Seattle Seahawks football team this year, it has been the safety play. Deion Grant and Brian Russell back there, the way those 2 guys have led this defense, the way they've taught Marcus Trufant and Kelly Jennings to play. They had all kinds of communication problems a season ago. Remember, when you're playing at home, the crowd's trying to impact the offense, but it impacts the defense as well.
Marcus Trufant on his way to his first Pro Bowl. Collins got away, but is down. And the play ruled dead. Another sack for the Seahawks.
Oh, my goodness.
Leroy Hill.
Wow. He just ran right through everybody coming off the outside. They thought they were going to get him picked up, and he just took Liddell Betts and threw him right into Todd Collins. I mean, that is now at least the 4th different guy that has hit Todd Collins. So you're sitting there as a game planner, and you're Al Saunders, and you're saying, okay, well, I got to block this guy, and I have to help here, and I have to help there. You can't help everybody.
Relentless pass rush by the Seahawks today. Here's the Frost punt. Burleson fair catch made at the 16-yard line. 6 possessions, 6 punts by the Redskins today.
You know, sometimes defenses can smell it. It's not just one guy, and that's where the issue is. They have been hitting them with everybody. Of course, Kearney has been coming off the edge, and that's been the primary focus of the protection, so you help that way. And then Darryl Tapp comes around the other way and says, okay, we're going to help that way a little bit. And then you're going to get hit by Peterson. And then right through everybody is going to come Leroy Hill. So what do you do? I don't know. You run the football, I guess. But this isn't an aberration. This is what this team's been doing all season.
Sean Alexander gets the call on first down. So you said that this was a different Seahawk team, built not around the run, but around the passing game on offense, and with a rock-solid defense. Seemed like the whole defense is going to the Pro Bowl, and in fact they are, because the 4 members that are going are making sure that every defensive teammate gets a trip with his family to the Pro Bowl in Hawaii. They're going to pay for it. Alexander lowers his head and takes a pretty good hit at the 30-yard line, or 20-yard line, I should say.
And now we're starting to see Washington defensively starting to creep up. They're starting to take a few chances. They're playing the run a little bit more. They're playing man coverage. You know, when you get down and you begin to understand that it's going to be a tough day for your offense defensively, especially if you know Greg Williams. I mean, he's an attacking kind of a guy. He's not going to just sit back and take it. He's going to go try and win it on the defensive side. Now you've got a 3rd down and long. He probably brings some pressure here.
Mo Morris replaces Sean Alexander in the backfield. Hasselbeck standing in the pocket, sidearms it incomplete, intended for Pollard. And the Seahawks will go 3 and out.
Greg Williams that time didn't bring pressure, and yet they were still able to get a little pressure on Matt Hasselbeck. Anytime that you can just rush 4 and squeeze the quarterback, especially when you get pressure right in his face, quarterbacks, they understand that they may end up getting hit coming around the edge, but when that guy's coming right in their face, that's a whole different story for the quarterback.
Pollard did a good job of preventing Prelo from making the interception as the punt toward Randall makes a fair catch. So we trade punts. That one 46 yards with no return. And the Redskins will take over with an even 3 minutes left in this first half. And coming up at the break, we'll have the Toyota halftime show with Bob Tiki and Jason Taylor breaking down the first half here and looking ahead to the Jaguars and Steelers in the AFC game 2 of our doubleheader. And the story from Andrea Kramer of how patience, perseverance have paid off for the Jags quarterback David Garrard. Coming up on the Toyota halftime show. Collins with a handoff to Portis. 6 yards on first down. Jordan Babineau, the tackle for the Seattle secondary.
Yeah, I think that's a good call on first down, too. Jordan Babineau coming with a slot blitz, and they were able to hit the draw coming off of it. So just try and slow these guys down a bit.
Looked like the ball was never going to get there in time. Santana Moss waiting, and then just snatched it out of the air for a first down.
Yeah. Marcus Trufant jumped this one pretty good. You know, they flipped Marcus Trufant over to the left side. In the NFL, the top corners play the left side because that's the visual side for the quarterbacks. So they made the switch from the right corner to left corner, and he's made huge strides in the past year.
Pass caught. Close to the first down by Randall They'll mark it just short.
Bringing all the pressure over this way now, and then Todd Collins just reads that as a hot read, dumps it out quickly. Nice play. That's what Todd Collins does best. Very sophisticated in reading these defenses.
That's a 2-minute warning.
So 2-minute warning in the first half here in Seattle. $10-0 Seahawks. With 2 minutes to go in the half, Joe Gibbs and the Redskins shut out in the first half only once in 23 postseason games. Well, with 2 minutes left, down 10-0 to Holmgren and the Seahawks. Clinton Portis stacked up at the line of scrimmage, only needed a yard for the first down.
Well, Joe Gibbs was upset on the previous play. He felt like since they called for the measurement that they should have stopped the clock right here and given them another play. They're going to call for the measurement here, but they continue to allow the clock to run out. Antoine Randall was calling for the timeout anyway, but it took the officials a long time to call for that measurement.
Third down and a yard. Collins pass incomplete, intended for Cooley.
Boy, Deion Grant was all over him.
And Grant with him stride for stride.
Deion Grant, maybe not the biggest hitting safety in the NFL, but what he does intellectually back there and physically playing some man coverage against a player as good as Chris Cooley, very impressive. And Joe Gibbs now, I think, making the right decision here and going for it. He has to have something for this football team going in at the half.
Really need something positive here. And on 4th and 1, and they give it to the fullback Sellers. It will be close. 4th down play, and they gave it to the fullback Sellers.
Well, I sat with Joe Gibbs in the NBC studios for a full year. And when it was 3rd and 1, I was almost lock sure that that was going to be a run. He does not like seeing anything fancy. He believes in his big guys up front, and that's going to come up short. So they go back to back, cannot convert, and if you believe in our yellow line, and we typically do,
Surprised that they didn't give it to Portis and let Sellers block for him.
Yeah, and I'm also a little surprised at that mark. When you looked at it, it looked like he may have gotten a little bit more than what it appeared.
Well, if you need a spark and so you go for it and then you fail to get that spark, does that double your problem?
Well, not necessarily, but if in fact they come up with points on the tail end of it, then you do have an issue.
I was just worrying about the emotional impact of
Yeah. But the emotional impact of getting your quarterback hit 20 times is pretty severe, too. Joe Gibbs is looking down going, I can't believe we don't gain a yard, and they're going to go take a look at this spot. And I think that's a good idea, because when Sellers was hit and then he rotated his body, he never really went down. His knee wasn't down, his arm wasn't down, elbow wasn't down. And so whatever he got, flipping upside down and backwards, see, it looks like he stopped there, and if they mark it there, that's exactly where it would be. But you could see that as he turned and fell forward, he was definitely ahead of where it ended up being marked, or at least in my opinion it was. See if we can get a feel at all. And of course now you're dealing with instant replay, but that looks much closer to the first down mark than what the ball actually ended up being spotted as. And this is a much better angle of how he spins and turns, but you don't get a very good look at where the yardage line is. So you can see it's kind of on the second hash mark, which would have been very close to the first down and maybe a first down. So if that's significant enough, if they can extrapolate out from there all those different views, and remember, they can take a piece of this view and a piece of that view and make a decision as to where the ball should be placed. But I personally thought that he was much closer. I mean, that's about a yard short of where I thought the ball should have been marked.
Here it is again, and a key decision, because if the Redskins can,
and he's not down, so he gets the full extent of that right there. He gets every inch of even carrying it up to their shoulder at that point. He kind of goes under the pile right there. Going to be really tough to overturn that. There's not a clear
because there's not a clear visual evidence, as they say in the college ranks.
It has to be conclusive, and I'm not sure you can say that that was absolutely conclusive, but it appeared to be much closer to the 42-yard line than the 43-yard line.
Here's Walt Coleman.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands. Short of the line to gain. First down, Seattle.
I just think the issue that he ran into, that there just wasn't that conclusive view.
Not enough evidence to overturn it.
Well, now here comes the Washington Redskins defenders, and this is a frustrating time in the ball game. They have done their job. They have gotten the ball back with good field position, and the offense has continually failed so far in the first half, but they have to make another stand here.
Morris cut down short of midfield by Landry. LaRon Landry, the rookie safety from LSU.
And that was really a nice block on the outside by Sean Locklear, getting the end hooked, and you saw a little bit of the explosiveness there of Maurice Morris.
Off the hands of Bobby Ingram, and incomplete. Defended by Sean Springs. Stops the clock at 58 seconds.
Like Bobby Ingram was a little surprised by that one. He wasn't thinking that one was coming out there.
You're not saying that at 34 years old you take a play or two off.
Oh, yeah, you know, I did at 30, so I'm going to assume he did. But you know what I think he saw? I think he saw Sean Springs looking in his eyeballs and starting to come up. And he goes, I know, Matt, he's not going to throw me this one. Whoops.
Ingram closing in on 600 career receptions. Hasselbeck under pressure. Got rid of it, but incomplete, intended for Burleson. And with 54 seconds, it'll be a Seahawk punt.
Well, you know, Matt did play alongside Brett Favre, and every once in a while you'll see a little
that sidearm deal, huh?
Favrean type of throw where he tries to, and then usually that's about the time if you watch Mike Holmgren and he starts rolling his eyes. He said, I yelled at Brett for doing it. I'm going to yell at you for doing it, because if he stepped up and make that throw, that's probably a first down, keep this one alive.
Hasselbeck began by hitting 9 of his first 12 passes and missed now his last 5 in a row. Randall L. fair catch at the Washington 9-yard line. So Hasselbeck getting that little drink of water, and meanwhile we heard 2 versions of it, by the way, and some of the people on the sideline of Seattle were telling me that, yeah, well, it's not always that cooling off period. Mostly it's Mike Holmgren saying, get him away from me, get him away from me.
You know, it was kind of entertaining was talking about when he was in Green Bay and Brett Favre was there, and Andy Reid would stand between Mike Holmgren and Brett Favre, and so Mike Holmgren would yell at Andy Reid, but it was intended for Brett, and I was standing right next to it, but at least Andy was a pretty good-sized buffer between the two.
For the 3rd time today, the Redskins start inside their 10. They are at the closing seconds of the first half as Mike Sellers with another carry. Makes it out just across the 10-yard line where he's tackled by Howard Green.
And I think everybody is going to be content to take this one in at the half. Obviously, Washington not wanting to make the big mistake. They are still in the ball game, but offensively, they just have to come up with some answers. And I think the answer has to be running the football. If they can't win the game running the football against Seattle, they're probably not going to win it because they can't block it.
And Betts with a short game, which will bring the first half to a close. So that's the end of the first half. 10-0 Seattle. Coming up next, the Toyota halftime show. Bob Tiki and Jason Taylor break down this first half and look ahead to the Jaguars and Steelers in game 2.
With 6 seconds left, that's their second team timeout.
So 6 seconds are going to be put back on the clock.
What's Mike saying, 7?
He's finger lobbying. You know, and I'm sure what they're thinking is if we can just force them to punt. The other thing that could happen here, if they do force them to punt, and I'm not sure exactly what happens if the clock runs out, but if they punt it and you fair catch it, you get a free kick. Remember that old rule?
I do.
So now you got all this crazy wind in the stadium, so if they can hold them here, get their last time out called, they could force a punt and maybe get a free kick for a field goal.
Betts. And did they get the timeout? Yes, they did, with a second left. But
the final team timeout. Seattle, please put 2 seconds on the clock.
2 seconds.
Please.
Now, see, I think in this situation, you don't want to punt the football.
No,
you just take the ball, you stand up, you run around for a couple of seconds, and you let this thing go, because if you punt it and they fair catch it, they would have the right as a free kick to try the field goal. It's a good decision here by the Washington Redskins. It's a kind of a little-known rule. I know Sam White, when I was playing for him, he was always dying to do this, because it's like one of those subtle things. But this is the right decision.
You'd have to drop kick it for the field goal, or were you?
No. Hold it and kick it.
They are going to just run it out as you said they should. As Betts dances ahead to kill the clock, we presume, to end the first half. The first half that sees the Seahawks leading the Washington Redskins 10-0 in this NFC wild card game. And now we tell you to stay tuned for the Toyota halftime show coming up next, with all the analysis of this first half and a look ahead to game 2 in this wild card day. But first, these messages from your local NBC station.
Our fans have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder.
I think our city is hungry for a championship.
You're in this to get a Lombardi trophy. That's what we're absolutely on a mission for right now.
Go Hawks!
And Act 2 opens with the Seahawks leading the Redskins 10-0. And that Seahawk defense has been the dominant factor so far in this game. What can Washington do now? They've been averaging only 2.9 yards per play, pass or run. What can they do to sort of break that momentum?
Well, you have to remember that a lot of times the running game doesn't get going until the second half. When the defense gets a little bit worn down and all of a sudden runs that didn't work so well the first half start working. So the Redskins are only down 10. They have to stay patient. Their strength is still running the football. Just have to don't get away from it.
And to get to the sideline, pushed out of bounds at the 25-yard line as we take the pulse of the first half here in Seattle.
Obviously the big play, Leonard Weaver on the draw when all the Washington Redskins were expecting pass in that situation, but really more than anything, Todd Collins has just been under siege, and it hasn't been one guy. It's been 3, 4, 5 different defenders, and you really are just in such a tough spot when you get like that. You can't run the football very well, and they're getting after you with the pass rush, and that's tough. There's Hasselbeck early on going to check out of it, thinking he sees a blitz here.
And he hands off to Shaun Alexander. And the former NFL MVP gets only a yard as we check in with Bob Newmeyer.
Well, as expected, Mike Holmgren loved his defense in the first half, but he said Matt has to throw the ball better here in the second half. I asked him about that call from Walt Coleman. He said simply, it was a very bad call. As for Joe Gibbs, very simple. We must pass protect better than we did in the first half. In fact, late in that half, I saw a big confab in the sidelines, him, Joe Bugle, and all the O linemen. Tom?
All right, Bob, as Seattle lines up for 2nd and 9. Looked like a little confusion in the Washington defense for a moment, and Ingram finds a seam in the defense and takes it close to the 40-yard line when Hasselbeck hits him for the completion.
Well, we start this half the same way we started the second half. This looked like the exact same play, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They come right back to it. They love Bobby Ingram working in the slot. And Matt Hasselbeck made no bones about it. He said, out of all these guys, there's one guy that I am most comfortable with, and it is Bobby Ingram working in the slot. They came out in man coverage. He goes right to him. Another late shift by the Redskins. Another audible by Matt Hasselbeck.
Point, counterpoint again. Checkmate. Alexander just caught from behind and tripped up when he really had a head of steam going. It was Godfrey that might have saved something for the Skins by tripping up Shaun Alexander.
Well, for Shaun Alexander, maybe this is sort of turning 30, that whole age thing a little bit. A couple years ago, he was the MVP of the league, the leading rusher in the league, and now the burst isn't just quite what it used to be. And when they watch Maurice Morris, they think that he has just a little bit more of it, especially on those edge plays.
2nd and 7.
Nice read.
Alexander out of the backfield, and a nice read by Reed Doty, who made the tackle. And Reed's young son, just less than 2 years old, in need of a kidney transplant. So not only has Reed stepped in to replace Sean Taylor, but his young son in need of a kidney transplant, and they identified his wife as a possible donor. And he's just got to get up to a certain weight to be able to have the operation.
Those kidney donors are incredible people. I know firsthand within my own family.
From the shotgun, Hasselbeck on 3rd and 7, threw it right to the defender who couldn't hold on. That was Torrance, Lee Torrance. The ball hit him in the chest, intended for Ingram, but that was a mistake by Hasselbeck that he gets away with.
Boy, I tell you what, that was a huge mistake right there. And for Lee Torrance, if he could make the play, that would have been a big one. But let's give credit to Bobby Ingram, the old wily veteran, got his hand in there and knocked it away. I mean, that was blanket coverage, and I'm not sure what the heck Matt Hasselbeck was thinking on that one. He caught a break.
He might want to avoid Mike Holmgren on the sideline again this time.
They're straight for the Kool-Aid.
Blackmeyer punting to Randall. High towering punt here. Randall, fair catch. Successfully made at the 16-yard line. So the Redskins will take over, but they haven't been in Seahawk territory but once today. They'll have the ball when we come back.
You sack the quarterback, that's the other team's field general. When you start affecting him, you're affecting that entire team.
If we can disrupt them a little bit, get his timing off, I think we'll do a good job. And the 12th man will definitely get a couple false starts.
Story of the game so far, and for Patrick Kearney, he made the decision to come to Seattle because he thought the NFC a little easier path to the Super Bowl than the AFC. Denver, the other team he considered.
From the 17. Collins hands to Portis. Some blockers in front, doesn't matter. Good penetration by the Seattle defense. A gain of 2. Julian Peterson gets credit for another tackle. Well, he looks like Matt wasn't able to avoid.
But Mike's, he's an old school teacher, and he talks lovingly about his days when he was a high school coach, and it meant so much to him. And he understands he has a little temper issue, and so he's tried to not be quite as volatile, a little more understanding. He doesn't always succeed, but he's getting a little better at it.
As charming as they come every day but game day. Collins in stride to Randall. Antoine Randall has been the most productive of the Washington offensive players today. Takes it to the 30 for a gain of 11 and a first down.
And really, Todd Collins now starting to do a little better job when they're coming with the blitz, that time Tutupu coming, seeing those hot reads. One of the things that you get in this offense since Todd Collins has come in is they're wanting to send more receivers out. It used to be with Jason Campbell, they would want to protect more, but they have enough confidence in Todd Collins to read it and get it out that it's making a difference for this offense. Not today.
11 of 21 for Collins as Portis is twisted down after another short gain. Give him a yard. Leroy Hill first to hit him.
And Clinton Portis now is seeing that play side is shut down. So now he's going, all right, let me try the backside of this thing. And then Leroy Hill sitting there on the backside of it. This has been, honestly, so far, a whipping by the Seattle defensive front against this Washington Redskins offensive line. There's no other way to put it. The game has been won by the Seattle defensive front so far.
Play action fake. Collins rolling to his right and will slide down after a 2-yard gain.
Hey, you come out on the bootleg, and the receiver obviously is the tight end, Chris Cooley, coming across the backside, and Deion Grant kind of cut him off, and then Lofa Tutupu was in front of him, once again anticipating the play. And so there's nowhere to go. There just was nothing there.
So 3rd down and 7 now from the Skin 33-yard line. Under pressure, he has to throw it away. Julian Peterson bearing down on Todd Collins. In fact, hit him after he had released the football. Collins has to throw it away, and another punting situation.
Well, Julian Peterson's going to come inside. They've been running this stunt all day where they bring Lofa Tupu to the outside. Julian Peterson lined up as the defensive end, stunts down inside, and they're just too athletic. You know, Todd Collins is not the quickest guy in the world, and once they get him on the move, it's just been over. That time they tried to roll him out, it just doesn't work.
Frost punts to Burleson. Burleson trying to get behind that wall. Shakes one tackler. And then is taken down by Frost, the punter, who twisted him down. Frost went with him one-on-one in the open field and able to make the tackle, but a 17-yard return after the Frost punt had covered 52. Tom Cruise in attendance at Qwest Field today. He's a friend and business associate of Redskins owner Dan Snyder, hoping it's not a mission impossible for the Redskins here.
Michigan difficult, but not impossible yet.
In fact, Seattle 10 points in their first 4 possessions, but they punted the last 4 times they've had the ball. Hasselbeck complete. Burleson nearly got away, but not quite. Grabbed by Fred Smoot before he could get too many yards after the catch.
Now, Nate Burleson's the guy that when they get man coverage and they see one-on-one matchups, they don't like to throw it to him deep so much. They just want to get the ball in his hands because of that great punt return and kick return ability. So many times this year he's taken that little 5-yard hitch and turned it into a big touchdown.
Had a 94-yard punt return touchdown, a 91-yard kickoff return touchdown. Hasselbeck rolls, finds Ingram, who dives for a first down.
Now they're starting to shorten up a little bit and just play a little ball control. This is probably the purest form of the West Coast offense, where you don't really try to take the ball and work it down the field so much. You just get it in those playmakers' hands and let them make a run. The Redskins were saying that when you're playing the West Coast offense, you just have to make sure you're making those tackles.
Sean Alexander hit hard at the line of scrimmage. Alexander finding the going pretty tough today. Cornelius Griffin hit him that time.
You know, Sean was telling us that he definitely misses Max Strong in the running game, and not that Leonard Weaver's not a good blocker, but they were so used to playing with each other. He said, I never watched what Max Strong did. I could tell by the sound of how he hit somebody how he was going to block him, and so I could watch the defenders around him.
Weaver unable to get a block that last time, and Alexander stopped for no gain. Hasselbeck lofts it up, and it's caught in stride by Hackett. He beats Sean Springs, and he has a first down. .35 yards.
Well, once again, Sean Springs just left on an island on the outside, just one-on-one the entire day. And you say, oh, well, he's been getting beat on some plays. But the only way the Redskins have been able to apply any pressure is to play man coverage and attack on the inside. And so these corners who have been playing so well are just completely under pressure now in this game. Sean Springs, Fred Smoot doing their best, but it's a difficult thing they're being asked to do out here.
Shotgun empty backfield, 4 wides. Hasselbeck looks downfield, finds his outlet receiver Alexander at the 20-yard line, where he's hit by Sean Springs.
You know, I just watched Matt Hasselbeck at the end of that play, and I can't tell if the wrist is bothering him or not. He's kind of, you know, when he makes the throws, he's doing a little something with his hand, and I'm sure he doesn't want the Washington Redskins to know if there's really anything going on with him or not, but you can see this at the end of this. He was kind of walking back to the huddle, and he just did a little, yeah, maybe just upset with himself. He didn't pick up the play.
Split backs now, Alexander and Weaver. Sean Alexander didn't seem to have any chance and did manage to break free to the 15-yard line with Andre Carter stopping him there. Looked like it was going to be no gain, and he got a few yards out of it.
You know, this offense, in particular this offensive line, just has not been the same since Steve Hutchinson left. You know, that whole thing, and Mike Holmgren was so upset with the front office, and they made him a transition player instead of a franchise player, and then Minnesota picked him up. And of course, Minnesota, the way they're running the ball this season with Adrian Peterson and Chester Taylor, just phenomenal. So that was a big loss for the Seattle Seahawks offensive line.
From the shotgun on 3rd and 7. Blitz comes. Hasselbeck chased from the pocket. Looking for the first down mark and upended hard by Smoot at the 15-yard line, short of first down yardage. And Hasselbeck a little gimpy as he gets up.
And Matt Hasselbeck takes a huge shot on this one by Fred Smoot. And if I had to name one guy who has played the most inspired football since Sean Taylor's funeral, I would have to say it's Fred Smoot. I always thought he's a pretty good player, but Fred Smoot has been just simply sensational since that took place. He was very emotional about the whole thing and just has played the best football of his life over the past 4 weeks.
Josh Brown, 33-yard field goal attempt is good. Brown hits his second field goal in as many tries here in the first half. Matt Hasselbeck, is he okay? Smoot hit him hard, but the Hawks up 13.
Matt Hasselbeck took a huge shot, and you can see he's trying to figure out if his leg's still attached after that hit by Fred Smoot. I've had that shot right there exactly, and you're thinking, well, you got a thigh pad on, it's no big deal. I was in the hospital overnight because I was a little soft, but you know, with a shot exactly like that, and he may be able to finish this game. I finished the game.
Flag is down. Cartwright's got a nice return moving, and he gets it to the 50-yard line. Let's check the flag. Kevin Bentley on special teams, the Seahawk tackle. A little jawing going on. So you beat me to the punch when you said you were a little soft in the hospital with a thigh bruise.
Like I haven't been around you long enough. Look for the Redskins.
Personal foul, low block, 50, return team, 15-yard penalty, first down.
So the Redskins just can't get anything going. Penalty nullifies a good return. Take a look at the low block by Curry Campbell of Washington on Kudavides of the Seahawks. There's the flag that comes flying, nullifying the return out to midfield.
Understand the rule is on special teams you cannot block low on either side of the ball.
Hand off to Clinton Portis. NBC's NFL Wildcard Playoff brought to you by Lincoln. Reach higher. By GE. Imagination at work. And by Vitorin. Second down and 8. Collins with a one-armed catch, one-handed catch by Cooley. You see why he was the top receiver for the Skins. Beautiful catch for 20 yards.
That was just a beautiful football play right there. Todd Collins threw that ball at least 3 steps before Chris Cooley came out of his break. Cooley saw it at the last second, stuck up one hand, made the catch. Best play of the day so far for the Redskins.
10th first down for Washington in 10 possessions. Collins underneath to Portis. Clinton Portis tackled. Portis tackled by Jordan Babineau. Here's what the Redskins have done in their previous possessions today.
So the highlight being turning it over on downs. We're going to the half. I'm not sure which one of those is better there.
Second down, Collins. Another completion. This one to Randall L for a first down.
You know, it's pretty interesting to me here, Tom, and I started to use the word amazing. Maybe I'll go back to amazing in the fact that right now Seattle, after bringing all that pressure and having all that success in the first half, 3 straight plays now have gone to a 4-man rush, a soft zone, and just playing conservatively. I've got to think here in a minute they're going to try and come get him again because that's what was working.
Under 3 minutes in the third quarter. Portis hit hard from 2 angles. Leroy Hill and Jordan Babineau. And Clinton Portis pretty much held in check today.
There is no substitute for speed as Leroy Hill is just going to chase this one down from the backside. That play is set up. They have an opportunity. You just cannot, that guy should not be able to catch Clinton Portis on a play, and yet he's been doing it in this defense the entire day.
Seahawks come with a blitz, and Collins reads it with a pass to Cooney, and he has it for another Washington first down, short of the 35-yard line. It's a gain of 15 yards.
That time they come with a safety blitz off the edge, and Hill this time stuck in coverage instead of being able to come and bring the pressure. And that's what we've come to expect out of Chris Cooley. Cooley's a guy that can get you out of a slump. So far in this drive, he's been the main man, and now Clinton Portis on the sideline.
Cooley with a couple of big receptions, and tacklers bouncing off in that time. Collins, short drop, quick toss, caught by Randall L. Ducking and dodging, and 2 yards short of the first down, where Deion Grant gets him to the turf. And a fight breaking out, quickly broken up.
Well, they're going to show blitz on this one and try and take advantage of Todd Collins and run Leroy Hill out underneath this route and hope they can pick off the hot read. You can see him sprint right to it, but Todd Collins read it a little faster, got it out for a big play.
Todd Collins 5 for 5 on this drive for the Redskins. That's his first miscue, intended for Caldwell, and the receiver fell down, defended by Kelly Jenkins of Seattle.
Now, Rashae Caldwell, who was the Pats' leading receiver last year, just slipped and fell, and that's one of those that could have been easily intercepted and returned for a touchdown. Redskins lucky there.
But now they have to convert a 3rd and 1. Portis. And they're going to mark it. If the yellow line is correct, it'll be 4th down. Joe Gibbs went for it on 4th down in the first half, 4th and 1, and failed to convert. And an injured player, an injured Seahawk.
Yeah. Deion Grant came sprinting around the edge there. He may have gotten whacked by his own guy.
We'll check the injury and be back. Back in Seattle, the injured Seahawk Deion Grant walked off, replaced by Mike Green, and Joe Gibbs is going to go for it on 4th down. You see there, 6 for 15 this season. They went for it 4th and 1 once in the first half and failed to get it on a carry by fullback Mike Sellers. Play action fake. Collins delivers downfield.
Wow, that has
there's
to
the
be
flag. It looked like it was intended for Sellers, and it looked like the flag was not going to be forthcoming. It finally was, and it would be pass interference against the Seahawks.
Well, Brian Russell is going to argue that I was looking back for the ball and our feet simply got tangled. And if that would be the case, it would not be pass interference.
And maybe that's why the flag was not forthcoming.
Pass interference. 25. Defense. Ball placed in the spot of the foul. First down.
So a moot point. It is defense on pass defense on Brian Russell. Pass interference.
You know, his feet did get tangled up, but as he was going to the ground, he also reached and grabbed for the arm and knocked his hands away.
And had his right hand wrapped around his leg.
Had the legs just been tangled, I think they might have waved that one off, but that additional arm swipe is probably what drew the flag.
38 seconds, 3rd quarter, first down at the 11. Collins underneath, caught by Sellers. Twisted down at about the 8-yard line by Tutupu.
How about the play call by Al Saunders on 4th and 1 with Joe Gibbs as your head coach? Yeah. Trust me, if that one had not worked, Al Saunders would have been hearing about that one for a long time.
Washington in the red zone for the first time in this game. 10 seconds to go in the 3rd quarter. 2nd down and 7. Just beat the end of the quarter. Collins scrambles, looks in the end zone, and nearly picked off. Deion Grant, who's back on the field after being shaken up a couple of plays ago, went upstairs and almost got it.
Yeah, you just forget how athletic these guys are sometimes. Todd Collins thought he could drop it in over the top, and Deion Grant just went vertical on him. It wasn't a bad throw, wasn't a bad idea. Throw it high in the back of the end zone. And he just got up and a little higher than the Redskins did.
The end of the start the 4th quarter in Seattle with the Seahawks leading the Redskins 13-0. Todd Collins in the 4th quarter, as good as you can be. And a big play coming up here with 3rd down and 6 from the Seahawks 7-yard line. Collins dancing in the pocket, throws the pass complete for the touchdown to Antoine Randall. Collins buying time, and then finding Randall, who's had a big game today. And the Redskins finally dent the scoreboard.
Yeah, great call by you, Tom. It was indeed the fact that they had enough time. He runs the complete out, and then it's going to loop back underneath the coverage as people inside clear out. Antoine Randall perks it up, and for Todd Collins, the 4th quarter magic continues.
Randall with 9 catches, 92 yards, and now a touchdown. Sweezum's extra point is good. So Todd Collins with a touchdown pass, and Washington narrows the count. It's 13-7 in the NFC wild card. The late night leaders are back. Jay and Conan, all new shows, new guests, new laughs. Jay and Conan, all new all week here on NBC. Tom Hammond, Chris Collinsworth, Bob Newmeyer, Qwest Field, Seattle, NFC wildcard game in the 4th quarter now. And Seattle up 13-0 just a few moments ago, leading virtually the entire game, sees their lead cut to 13-7. Sweezum to kick off. A scoring drive by the Redskins, in which Todd Collins was 7 of 9 through the air. Taken by Burleson. And stopped at the 25. NBC's NFL Wildcard Playoff brought to you by Campbell's Chunky, official soup and chili sponsor of the NFL. By Miller Lite. For award-winning taste, there's no debate. Miller Lite, good call. By the new Motorola Razr 2, sharper than ever. And by Wendy's, hot and juicy burgers that are made to order. That's right. And today's aerial coverage brought to you by Gillette Clinical Strength. Beautiful shot of Qwest Field in downtown Seattle, Washington, where the home team's up 13-7, taking over here. And Burleson has it dislodged. And it's a catch. Burleson somehow held on to it, despite the fact that Torrance hit him and the ball came momentarily free.
And I thought Lee Torrance had a chance to come down with it here, which would have been a huge play in the ball game. You get a little bobble, the ball's up in the air. And man, just the fact that it was able to come right back into Burleson's hands, that would have been an amazing turnaround right there.
Instead, it's 2nd down and 6. Seahawks able to pick up the blitz, and then it's intercepted, though, by Landry, the rookie Landry, down the sideline. But it's going to rule.
I think they're going to say he's down back here because he was hit with the contact. But there we see what I think is probably the biggest difference when you're talking about the Washington Redskins defense. They play their safeties so deep this year because they got beat on so many big plays. So they don't do what defensive backs typically do, which is backpedal out of that situation. They stand there, they react up, and once again, the Washington Redskins defense comes up with a play, and I guarantee you there are so many guys on the sideline right now talking about Sean Taylor and what Sean Taylor's watching this game, and they're talking to him because they truly believe that he's with them on the football field. Whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. This team thinks that number 21 is with them, and the magic is starting to happen once again for the Washington Redskins.
First turnover of the game. And clearly he was down by contact from Ingram. So it's back to the 42-yard line. Clinton Portis finds a seam and has a nice 9-yard run on 1st down. And Portis says he even talks to Sean Taylor, his former Miami teammate. Taylor still listed on the official depth chart. This is given out to the media. It's also in the official game program where the Redskins still list the late Sean Taylor as their starting safety. And back at Redskins Park, his locker still has the equipment in it, now sealed by plexiglass. He's very much with this team. On the slant, Moss has the Redskins first down to the 30-yard line.
You know, it has been just an amazing story for this football team. And the fact they were down 13-0, and most teams you'd say, well, it's probably over. But this team was 5-7, effectively out of it. Joe Gibbs had the horrible decision calling the 2 timeouts against Buffalo. You would have thought this team maybe collapsed. They go down to the funeral. They come back, a galvanized football team. They have come back so many times this year that you've got to believe they probably have another one in them.
Play action fake. Collins looking for the end zone. Tossing. Caught. Moss for the touchdown. Yard touchdown pass. Todd Collins to Santana Moss.
Santana Moss going to come down here and then go all the way across the formation here. They go play action on an early down where it looks like maybe this is going to be a rundown. Deion Grant just simply no match for the speed of Santana Moss. And can you believe the turnaround in this football game?
Sweeps him to give the Redskins the first lead. And he boots it through, and Washington goes up 14-13 as Sean Taylor watches from the heavens above Santana Moss. Leron Landry, number 30 there with the interception. And Santana Moss, number 89 over on the bench, hidden by some of the players with the touchdown catch. And after scoring no points in the first 45 minutes, Washington has scored 14 in the last 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Short kick. It takes a bounce. That's a live ball. Call on the fly. And another Redskin touchdown.
You're not allowed to advance that one, but it is going to be the Redskins football.
Anthony Mix recovers it and just cruised into the end zone, but he can't advance it. Can't advance it. It'll be down.
The ball is dead when recovered. First down.
Tom, we're sitting up here and we have a great vantage point for this one. This ball stopped. The wind is blowing directly in the face of the kicking team on that one. The ball went up and almost like a frisbee came straight down. And you see Burleson's going to try to catch up to it, and then it bounces over his head. Well, this is just like an onside kick at this point. Recovery by the Washington Redskins. Their ball. Burleson understands what's going on. He's saying, look at this thing. I can't get there. All the wall is already in their blocking mode. He simply couldn't get there. And the Redskins, this is incredible.
So they'll mark it at the 14. That's where Mix recovered at the 14-yard line. Play action fake. Todd Collins. Diving reception by Cooley. No, did not get it. It hit the ground. Short hopped it.
Cooley not arguing, so I'm assuming this was a good call, but what a throw that time by Todd Collins. The officials got that one right, of course. But Todd Collins, you think back to the throw that he made to Cooley, that corner route that kind of jump-started that drive, but he has simply taken over this football game. This 36-year-old guy who thought his chances were all over, and here he is in the playoffs in the fourth quarter again getting it done.
Who ended the third quarter by nearly being intercepted in the end zone. Portis using a block by Sellers, but not much there.
And I think we also have to make the point here that Todd Collins now is getting time that he wasn't getting in the first half. That for whatever reason, Joe Gibbs, Joe Bugle, those guys have made some adjustment here in the second half. I think the fact they're getting the ball out a little bit quicker, offensive linemen doing a nice job, but they're also getting more receivers out in the pattern and allowing Todd Collins to control the pass rush by simply saying, you can't blitz us because we're going to send all our receivers out.
Third down and 8. That 12th man trying to rally the Seahawk defense. All that pressure they had in the first half has not been in evidence here in the second half.
Boy, whatever Mike Sellers said to Todd Collins, he didn't like it, and he jumped right in his face.
Timeout with 11:44 left. Mike Sellers lined up in the wrong spot, forcing the Redskins to have to burn a timeout.
Even Clinton Portis was trying to work with him and tell him, you got to go to the other side. You got to go to the other side. And then Collins says something, Sellers says something, and Collins said, I know better than you do, believe me. I'll tell you exactly where you're supposed to go, and I'm not sure we should talk about where he said he should go.
And no question who's in charge of this team at the moment. Here's Collins retreating, passing, ball deflected. I think his arm was hit as he was delivering the football by Patrick Kearney. And Kearney, who was in the backfield constantly in that first half, finally makes a play here.
And Kearney's going to come down inside of the double team. You can see they've got two different guys on him, and he still manages to knife his way through there. And it makes you think a little bit about the play in the first half. Now that this is getting a little closer, play that looked like it was a fumble, it was called incomplete, now becoming a much bigger call in this ball game.
Sean Sweezum, a 30-yard field goal attempt. It's no good. From 30 yards, no good. And so what appeared to be a huge break as the kickoff bounded free and Washington recovered, and they get no points.
That is called playoff pressure right there. You know, in basketball, when you get the concrete in your elbow a little bit, he got a concrete knee on that one. And Joe Gibbs said, I'm going to give him a concrete on the forehead. You have to be kidding me. 30-yard field goal in a game of this significance, you're going to shank that one? Yeah. And now you have to wonder about his confidence if he has to make one at the end of the game.
You know, hate to have to ask him again to try to win a game, although that one appeared makeable. 30 yards away, no excuse. Hasselbeck comes right back on first down and spots Ingram, who spins his way to a first, a gain of 19 yards.
Remember when Matt Hasselbeck was telling us that I can throw a 22-yard crossing route to Bobby Ingram with my eyes closed?
Yep.
They may have just done it. That was the play. They come back in man coverage once again. They're trying to bring a little pressure. They're playing man on the outside. And Bobby Ingram winning some of those battles now for the Seahawks.
Hasselbeck avoiding the pressure and finding Hackett. Hackett into Redskin territory to the 44-yard line where he's hit by Lee Torrance.
Randall Godfrey's going to come around the outside and actually get his hand on Hasselbeck here. But Matt's going to step up, see the little hole in the protection, and get that one into Hackett, who's had some really big plays here today. Good to have him back for the Seahawks.
And the crowd back in it. 16-yard gain. First down. Seahawks in Washington territory. Draw play, Alexander. To the 36.
Tom, obviously the significance of missing that field goal is now they can play for a field goal instead of having to play for a touchdown. They go draw play. Coming out of the middle is Reed Dowdy, is the guy that took the place of Sean Taylor, who's done a nice job. But you have to realize that universally people understand that Sean Taylor was the best player on this football team. So Reed Dowdy has no chance if you're going to make those comparisons.
Hasselbeck rolling, diving over a would-be tackler, whipping it downfield where it is. Intercepted. Landry has his second of the game. Intended for Ben Obamanu, and Landry coming over from that safety spot with the interception.
And Lee Torrance is going to take out Obamanu on that play. I don't think he could have gotten back into contention, but if Landry doesn't make that interception, I think they're going to call pass interference on that play. There's almost no question in my mind that had he had a chance to come back and fight for the ball, but I think what the officials are going to say on that play is that the interception occurred before the pass interference and didn't have an impact. And you just saw Mike Holmgren go, Matt, are you kidding me? But we have seen throughout the course of the game since LaRon Landry has taken over for Sean Taylor, his range from sideline to sideline has just made such an incredible difference for this Redskins defense.
Hasselbeck with 2 interceptions in his last 4 pass attempts. First down Redskins with a hand to Clinton Portis, and the play stopped. False start against the Redskins.
Yeah, we've talked about it in the past, but over the last 3 years, more false starts in this stadium.
False start, 60 offense. Half the distance to the goal.
Than any other stadium, and especially when you get backed up down here, and it's no joke. Now, Mike Sellers made some comment about in the papers this week about they must be pumping in the crowd noise, and all the Seahawks guys start laughing. So, no, that's the 12th man.
That just fired him up more.
It did. Well, the Redskins desperately need a first down or two, not only to burn a little clock, but if they can't get out of this hole, it's almost an automatic field goal situation for Seattle.
So from the 5-yard line now, first down and 14. Up back Sellers. 2 yards to the 7. Well, only 2 road teams have come back from 13 down in the 4th quarter to win. 72 and 80 both times the Cowboys. Landry with 2 interceptions, trying to change that stat. The Redskins trailed 13-0.
I think the Redskins have to stay aggressive here. They've got a hot quarterback. You can't be afraid. This is the playoffs. You got to play to win it.
Toss it back to Portis. Knocked backwards short of the 10-yard line.
Because, Tom, remember how hard the wind is blowing in the directions of the Washington Redskins here. So even if you try to get a punt off here, you'll be lucky to get it to the 45-yard line. And who knows what happens on the return, if anything. So I think you got the ball offensively. You're playing well. You have to continue. Worst case scenario, you throw an interception in this situation, you're not going to be in that much different a situation than you would be if you punted the football here. Patrick Kearney, though, you better find an answer for him coming off the edge right here.
So from the shotgun, Redskins look like they will be aggressive. Todd Collins, his pass high and incomplete. Nice defense by Trufant on Santana Moss.
Well, if you ever had a double move in the game plan, and obviously that's something that takes a little bit of time, but Marcus Trufant, I think the difference in his confidence this year. A year ago, I'm not so sure he would have been quite that bold on that play. But this season, you've seen him just be a little more cocky out there playing on the edge. Came up big that time.
Frost punt, a line drive low. Burleson says stay away from it. Takes a Seahawk bounce. And will be down at about the 42-yard line by Rock Cartwright. Punting against that wind, only 32 yards. Well, football playoffs today and the next round of presidential playoffs this week. Matt Lauer live at the showdown in New Hampshire. Only on today on NBC.
Things are getting pretty interesting in the presidential elections now, too.
The Iowa caucuses. Very interesting. Well, here's an opportunity for the Seahawks. Hasselbeck had them moving last time, but threw another interception. Gets a reprieve as they take over first down in Washington territory. That one dangerous also. Intended for Pollard and incomplete as he was twisted down by Dowdy.
You know, the one thing that the Seattle Seahawks under Mike Holmgren haven't really come up with so far is a great pass-catching tight end. You know, they've drafted some. It didn't work out. It didn't happen. Pollard's in here now. But that just hasn't been a position. And when you're talking about Bill Walsh and the West Coast offense, the receiving tight end has always been so significant, and they just haven't found that guy yet here.
Handoff. Morris. Ridden down by London Fletcher.
When you're talking about Joe Gibbs, you're talking about consistency and the fact that once he gets the lead, he holds the lead. And they have the lead right now, but they are in a precarious position as they're heading down. Seattle probably one first down away, and you just have not had a more significant play in the ball game than this one right here. They're not in field goal range now. They need a first down. Third and about 6.
Hasselbeck under center. Short drop and his pass down the sideline. Snagged by Burleson. Big play by Burleson. He beat Sean Springs for the first down. It's a gain of 15, and now they are in field goal range and looking for more than that.
What a great throw and catch on the outside. Nate Burleson maybe gets away with a little push off there on Sean Springs. Sean Springs could not have been in better position, but he never got his head around, Tom. All he had to do is flip his head around there, and the ball is probably going to come into his lap instead of Burleson's. But a huge pitch and catch, and a big one for Hasselbeck, who has not been playing so well.
From the 23, Sean Alexander gets the call. Takes it down to the 20-yard line.
Well, now you start playing the clock game here a little bit too. If you want to come up with a best case scenario for the Seattle Seahawks, they sort of slowly grind this thing into the end zone, but at the very least you're thinking field goal. But you do not want to rely on field goal kickers at this moment. There's no way to anticipate the kind of pressure that you have in the playoffs, and I think Mike Holmgren here is going to play for the touchdown. You don't want to just put it in the hands of a kicker.
Hasselbeck pumps once, wide open, Hackett for the touchdown.
Love the aggressive play call here by Mike Holmgren. Comes out. Hasselbeck's going to pump to the right. It was man coverage by Pearson Prelo, and he just blew it. There's no way that that was anything but straight man-to-man coverage on the outside, and Hackett went right by him.
And the Seahawks will go for 2. Hackett with his 6th reception. He has 101 yards receiving in that touchdown. Now, Holmgren calling for a timeout. They didn't have the correct personnel on the field. It looks like Weaver was missing. Well, replaces Alexander.
And they never started the 25-second clock.
No.
So it essentially gave them time for that miscue on personnel and still time to get it off.
Hasselbeck has the 2-point conversion to Pollard. Pollard, and it's 21-14. Welcome back to Seattle. Qwest Field has seen the Seahawks under pressure respond with Matt Hasselbeck tossing the touchdown pass. 21-14 Seattle. Brown's kick with the wind to Cartwright. And Cartwright with a seam and a blocker in front. Cartwright down the side. Just tripped up at the 40-yard line with a late flag coming down as well. Brian Russell able to get his legs tangled up along with Brown the kicker. A 60-yard return as we check the penalty.
And this is a big call.
Illegal block in the back, 45, return team, 10-yard penalty, first down.
But it's from the spot of the foul, so it just depends on where the block took place, and it looked like it was across the 50.
There's Mike Sellers with the block in the back. Number 45.
Well, sometimes when things don't go right on offense or defense, you turn to your special teams, and Rock Cartwright has been one of the great special teams players in the league. He's one of the best special teams players for the Redskins, and one of those guys that his teammates just admire for the way he plays the game Yes, he would love to run the ball more, but he does his job and he contributes to the team and came up huge there.
After the penalty, they'll spot the ball at the Redskin 46-yard line. Under 6 minutes. Collins wings it downfield, intended for Santana Moss, and way off target, intercepted by Trufant. And Trufant has blockers in front. Trufant down the sideline for the touchdown. Marcus Trufant, 78 yards with the interception for the touchdown.
Santana Moss on the outside tried a little out and up move. He saw that Marcus Trufant didn't bite on it, and he just basically quit on the play. He said, I know Todd Collins is not going to throw this ball because Marcus Trufant didn't bite on it. Collins threw it anyway. Trufant basically made a fair catch back there and runs it all the way. I mean, at the very least here for Santana Moss, you have to go make this tackle. He never saw the football. He made an assumption about his quarterback that he wouldn't throw it because he didn't bite on the out and up. And Trufant, instead of just catching it, he caught it and scored.
Meanwhile, Stephon Heyer, the rookie right tackle of the Redskins, was shaken up on the play as the congratulations continue. The first interception in 10 years for Todd Collins results in a Seahawk first down or touchdown.
You know, I can tell you from a first-hand basis that sometimes you do make those assumptions about, okay, the quarterback's not going to throw it here. They didn't bite. It's not the right coverage. It's not this. But you can never stop because quarterbacks make mistakes too. Is that a ball that Todd Collins should have thrown? The answer is no. He should not have made that throw. But for Santana Moss, you can never make that assumption. You can never assume that the guy won't make a bad play. That time he did. He lost where the ball was, and it just turns this game completely upside down.
Heyer able to jog off the field. And now Brown will attempt the extra point. And the extra point is good. This game is like the weather here in Seattle. It swings one way and then it swings back again.
Well, Mike Holmgren's basically an offensive coach, but oh, he's loving a little defense on that one, wasn't he?
Well, coming up on NBC, another wild card game, the AFC matchup between the Jaguars and the Steelers. That's game 2 of our wild card Saturday. Coming up next right here on NBC. Big Ben and the Steelers against the Jaguars in Pittsburgh.
If I were to say to you the number 2 and number 3 ranked quarterbacks in the National Football League, who are they? They're playing in that game. Ben Roethlisberger, David Garrard have had sensational years, and the game's really going to come down to those two today. Well, I wonder what Kathy is thinking. You think she's gotten word or she heard the screams? Mike Holmgren's wife, Kathy, who leaves before the opening kickoff of every game. She can't take it.
Cartwright fielding this one. To the 30-yard line. Well, Kathy Holmgren, Mike said that she hasn't seen a game in 15 years of his teams. All the way back to Green Bay. Here she was before the game in the box greeting their guests and cheering as the players started to come out for warm-ups. But as soon as the game began to start, She took off.
Goodbye.
She left the stadium. She can't stand to watch it. It all goes back to Green Bay when she would go to the games, actually sit out in the stands with the fans, but then on Monday she was feeling terrible, having migraine headaches and everything else. Finally, the doctor says, you know, you care too much. It's the game that's doing that to you. So for 15 years, she hasn't seen a game, but she might be able to hear this one wherever she is.
Indeed.
Collins, screen pass. Portis using his blockers, pushing them ahead and taking it across the 40-yard line. In fact, Kathy Holmgren often when she leaves the stadium game day will go hand out food to the homeless, and she's the community nurse down at the Pike Place Market. Very involved, and when Mike Holmgren discusses with her in Hawaii after each season whether he wants to continue, she says to him, if you're going to continue, you have to have your health and you have to have that fire. And he's still had them, obviously. That pass to Cooley right at the first down marker.
Well, this game a long way from over right now. You still have 5 minutes to go in the ball game. You've got an offense that's on the move now. And for Todd Collins, he's going back to Mr. Reliable. For him, Chris Cooley. They're in the hurry-up mode now. Plenty of time in this game.
4:38 and counting. Collins is sacked. Craig Terrell with a sack of Todd Collins.
Darrell's just going to come right up the gut here, and once again we're seeing this pressure inside. Just a four-man rush there. We see the pressure up the middle, and so far the defenders for the Seahawks have just been winning those battles.
Craig Terrell with a sack, his first, as Portis caught from behind, making it to the 45-yard line, caught from behind by Darrell Tapp, and Portis writhing in pain.
And that is a major blow for the hopes of the Washington Redskins, because as you see more and more prevent defense, obviously trying to protect a 2-touchdown lead, what is open, all the screen passes and little dump off balls here, and it looked like on that play he tripped over his own guy and got hurt. But that's so much a part of the explosiveness of this football team, because what we've seen in the past 4 weeks, yes, Todd Collins has been terrific, but Santana Moss has gotten healthier. Clinton Portis has gotten healthier. He's been in and out of the lineup all season long with knee and ribs and shoulder injuries, and my guess is on the next play he'll be back in.
A bit of a limp as he heads to the sideline, replaced by Liddell Betts. Left foot. They'll try to get him back as soon as they can. Meanwhile, Betts in his 6th season from Iowa.
He's a good runner. He's not nearly the explosive player, though, that Clinton Portis is.
3rd down and 8. Collins from the shotgun. Pass caught downfield for a first down by Santana Moss.
Incredible. That had to be a 35 to 40 inch vertical leap on that one, and still made the catch. As high as he can go in the fingertips on a play you absolutely have to have. Great catch. Great catch.
Keeps the drive going. Under 3.5 on the clock. Randall catches that one with a defender all over him. Short gain of a couple of yards.
Leroy Hill right here is going to jump out once again underneath that hot read. He's getting closer and closer on that blitz, trying to run underneath that one.
Collins' pass incomplete off the hands of Randall, who was being hit as he caught it by Russell.
Now, Brian Russell, one of those guys, if he were to go to the NFL Combine this season, may not get drafted. He doesn't have all the numbers and the vertical and the 40-yard dash and all the different things. All he is a football player who gets these defenders in the right spot, and when the ball's in his area, he makes big plays. He's made a huge difference to this defense this year.
Another gigantic 3rd down. Collins in the shotgun. Dangerous pass, batted away. That one hung up there a long time. Intended for Caldwell.
Way late. Todd Collins was way late on this throw. If you're going to try and squeeze that one in that little hole, that ball has to come out a good 5 yards before that break happens. And it wasn't even close. If anything, that should have been a touchdown the other way for Kelly Jennings. Terrible timing, terrible throw.
As it was, Jennings just batted it down, making it 4th down and 8. Twice they've gone for it on 4th down, but that was 4th and 1. They made one, missed the other. Collins on an out, incomplete. Seahawks take over, intended for Moss.
Well, Tom, I have my MVP in this game. I think Marcus Trufant has been sensational. He is just on big 3rd down throws. You know where they're going to try and go with the ball. Santana Moss, by far their best player, and he has just been there all day long. It is remarkable to me. I've watched this young man in his first couple of years. He had a lot of shoulder injuries. He didn't get to train in the offseason with the team. And this season, for the first time, he spent the entire offseason here. He was working out. He was working on his technique. And to see the difference in his play this year has just been remarkable. He's going to the Pro Bowl, and he certainly deserves it.
Coming into his own, the former Washington State Cougar, Trufant from Tacoma, was an All-Stater at Wilson High School in Tacoma, Washington. And now with a 2-touchdown lead, they hand the ball to Sean Alexander with 2:36 and a timeout taken by the Redskins.
Well, it gets even more interesting if the Seattle Seahawks can hold this lead, because next week they get to go home one more time. They go back and play the Green Bay Packers.
Well, the last time they played was in a playoff game at Lambeau Field. It went into overtime, and Todd Hasselbeck was memorable. Listen to this.
Seattle has won the toss. We won the ball, and we're going to score.
Well, they got the ball, but they didn't score because it was picked off by Al Harris. Returned it 52 yards to give the Packers the overtime victory, 33-27. But Hasselbeck and Holmgren hoping to return to Green Bay for their next playoff encounter. Alexander dancing around. Not much forward progress.
And I was calling that game, and Matt Hasselbeck came out and he said, we talked to him about what he said. We're going to want the ball and we're going to score and all those kinds of things. And he said, hey, I know all those guys. It was like being in the backyard. We were out there playing and having fun. And one of the things I truly love about NFL football is when it turns back into a kid's game. And, you know, Matt Hasselbeck is one of those guys. He's a gigantic kid. He really is. There's no other way to say it. He has a playfulness about him. He did a thing. He thought his teammates were a little bit tight this week, so he goes in to shave. And instead, he leaves the mustache on, goes in and puts a little eye black on it, parades around the locker room. They're all wearing them out, going, oh, please, we're trying to eat. Don't do this to him. Goes home, his wife says, get that off here. Are you kidding me? But he keeps things loose on this football team, and he's a fun guy to be around. Unless he's around Mike Holmgren.
Yeah, right.
It's not quite as much fun as it typically is.
And not as much fun for him either.
No. But this has been a great performance by this defensive football team of the Seattle Seahawks, and maybe the magic in this magical run of the Washington Redskins finally closes out here.
Alexander. Loss on the play, back to the 30-yard line. Redskins have one timeout left. No timeouts left. 0 timeouts left for the Redskins. Can't stop the clock.
Well, Patrick Kearney's sucking up a little oxygen, but he's been sucking up quarterbacks throughout the course of the game today. He has just been monstrous.
So down to the 2-minute warning. The last clock stoppage for Santana Moss and the Redskins, trailing by 14. Darkness settling in on Qwest Field, but we're not done with playoff football. This wild card Saturday on NBC continues as the Jaguars and the Steelers meet in Pittsburgh. That's coming up next here on NBC. And here is the way the playoff picture looks in the AFC, with Jacksonville and Pittsburgh meeting next, and then Tennessee and San Diego tomorrow, with the Patriots and the Colts awaiting the winners.
You know, it's really interesting to watch Jacksonville play. You're talking about a team flying under the radar screen. They went up to Pittsburgh, beat them there, which is so difficult to do. I played in Cincinnati. I know how hard that is. But they did it in Pittsburgh Steeler fashion, pounding the football. About 250 yards rushing in that game. Fred Taylor, a huge day against the Steelers defense that's really known for being able to stop the run. And you've got to think the Steelers are going to do a few things differently in this one than what happened in that game a few weeks ago.
It's 4th down for the Seahawks, and so Plaquemire in punt formation. Randall, fair catch at the 25-yard line. I don't think he was knocked down there. His momentum kind of carried him down, and no penalty flag. Well, Todd Collins had that amazing run, and it looked like it was going to continue here in the 4th quarter today, as the Redskins scored 14 points in just over 2 minutes.
You know, Todd Collins, I think, played really well, brought this team back, but he was under siege all day long today. He was hit 12 times, knocked down 10, sacked 3 times, and you're just not going to win under that kind of pressure.
Pass to Cooley. Redskins with no timeouts. That 21 on Joe Gibbs' jacket, of course. Sean Taylor's number, worn by all the Redskins and by all the Seahawks, in fact by every team in the league. Ducking out of bounds, Caldwell. There's the pressure you mentioned that the Seahawks were able to get on in Todd Collins today.
You know, and the big thing was that they were never really able to get the running game going. And when you can't run the football against a defense like this, it can bring this kind of pressure, just so tough.
Collins able to hold on to the football. Julian Peterson covered him.
So much of what the Seahawks do is about the pressure they bring. They're 10-2 this season when they get at least 1 sack, 0-4 when they don't get any. And they've been flying today.
Collins to Betts. Paul Allen, the owner of the Seahawks, who had a hand in the design of this stadium, which is so loud. It was designed to help funnel the noise down to the field.
It works.
Intercepted. Babineau. Collins has taken out Babineau for the touchdown. "57-yard return for the touchdown. And the celebration begins in earnest in Seattle.
Well, you asked Joe Gibbs last night, do you think this team has anything left? Is there anything left in the tank after winning 4 straight and all that this team has been through emotionally? And what did he say?
He didn't know.
I don't know. You know, and I think that maybe it just was finally over. And unfortunately, the box score tomorrow for Todd Collins is not going to look very good with those 2 interceptions returned for touchdowns. But he has been sensational. He played his guts out today. Clinton Portis played his guts out. It's been a remarkable run by Joe Gibbs and this team, but it just finally wasn't enough. You know, it just wasn't enough. They have too many people injured. They have too many big losses. And Seattle really didn't have those big games. They had about a month off because they clinched this soft division out here so early that they were able to get ready for this one, and they exploded tonight.
And all that and more will be discussed on the Diet Pepsi Bridge Show between games, coming up right after this one is over and before the Jaguars and Steelers. And, you know, asking and talking about the Redskins with that magic coming down, as you mentioned earlier, they had lost 4 in a row to Buffalo, and things were so unsettled. And then the funeral of Sean Taylor, and perhaps it drew them together. But then in this game, getting down by 13 points, and the fans getting into it and everything else, it took them so much to have to climb from behind to finally take that 14-13 lead that it sort of really, the bottom fell out of it then. They just were, the tank was empty.
And Clinton Portis, who looked so glum on the sideline, he was telling us last night, he said, I talked to him. I talked to him during the game. I talked to him between plays. We talked just like he was still here with us, and I think that he was still here with so many of these guys, you know, and they'll never forget.
Kind of always will be, despite the fact that this run is ending.
Yeah, and for Taylor, it was so sad, you know, that, and such wasted lives, you know, not just Sean Taylor, but the 4 young kids who thought that that he wasn't going to be home, and they could go in and rob the house, and the panic that must have taken place. And it's just such a horrible tragedy on so many different fronts. A guy that was turning his life around, had a 2-year-old daughter, and meant so much to him. And everybody on this team said they could see the difference in his life and how tragic it all is.
Joe Gibbs, with his deep faith, said he had seen a change in Sean in the last couple of years, and that his life was in turn starting to influence others in a positive way, if there's anything you could possibly take from that. Tapp makes the tackle there, and here come the Seahawks with their celebration. We said Seattle was sort of a forgotten team. Well, who do you like in the NFC? You might want to think about the Seahawks.
I'm telling you, because the Dallas Cowboys, depending on the health of Terrell Owens, haven't looked like the Dallas Cowboys without him. Don't know if he's going to be there. But for this Seahawks team, they needed this signature victory. They had one win over a playoff team that was against Tampa Bay on opening day, and now they come back. They give up a big lead. It looks like it's going to fall apart. They bring it back together, and Mike Holmgren and the Seahawks get it done.
2 pass interceptions for touchdowns. Matt Hasselbeck, 20 of 32, 229 yards with a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. Hackett was 6 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown.
And let's give Hasselbeck a little credit. He was on a pretty good skid there. The wheels were starting to fall apart, and yet when it mattered most, he was able to piece it back together, took his team down the field to retake the lead.
Now, when the pressure was on, he came through. Let's go down to Bob Newmeyer.
With victorious Seahawk coach Mike Holmgren on the up and down emotional scale. Where does that one rank for you?
Holy smoke. It was back and forth in the second half, certainly. Very proud of the team. You know, after we kind of kicked it away there, they bounced back and they played really good football down the stretch. So we get to play another game.
Matt Hasselbeck did not have his best game. 2 interceptions. They get the ball 14-13. Looked like they might blow it open, and yet they missed the field goal, and Hasselbeck brings you back. What about this quarterback?
Well, you know what? We've talked about all week how emotion plays a factor in these games. When they missed the field goal, okay, Matt went in there and he said, we'll get this done. And he went down there and threw a touchdown pass. And I don't think he did play his best game. But, you know, he is the leader of this football team, and we'll go as far as he'll take us.
And the next round will be Green Bay. A lot of history, you and Brett Favre. Yeah. It's a huge matchup, and it means a lot to you. What are your thoughts on this Packer matchup?
Well, you know what? I'm going to try and enjoy this one tonight. But we knew we were going to go back there if we won. It's a special place. It's a special place for everyone who loves football. And we have our work cut out for us, but I hope it's going to be a heck of a game.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Tom.
All right, Bob, and Kathy Holmgren probably getting back to the stadium by now. She can join the celebration after being unable to watch the game in person. The Seahawks win it 35-14. Coming up next, the Diet Pepsi Bridge Show. And after that, the Jacksonville Jaguars will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for Chris Collinsworth, Bob Newmeyer, our entire NBC Sports crew, Tom Hammond saying goodbye from Seattle, where the Seahawks win their wild card matchup with Washington. You've been watching NBC's NFL Wild Card Playoff.